Ready to push your queue back to the R300. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. It is soccer action. Mamelodi Sundowns claim their revenge over Magesi FC, opening a 6-point lead at the top. And in cricket action, South Africa's under-19 thrash Nigeria. We'll bring you details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Today is Thursday, the 23rd of January 2025. Good morning and welcome to it, the Thursday edition of The Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Come, let us spend the next 3 hours together informing and engaging each other and sharpening each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. So, let me tell you a bit about what's coming up on the show. I want to start here with the issue out in Khutsong in Carltonville on the west of Joburg. It's the stuff you associate with apocalyptic movies from Hollywood. The ground opens like a massive gaping hole, a massive gaping mouth, and swallows an entire house, entire neighborhoods and villages in one fell swoop. Yet that's the nightmare that residents of Khutsong Township in Carltonville have had to live with for at least the past 2 decades. Administration after administration has come and gone, with undertakings to deal with issues of resettlement of affected residents affected by the sinkholes in that area, but no sustained and adequately resourced and budgeted for program of relocation has ever been undertaken. So come to think of it, the issue of sinkholes has been a pressing issue for Khutsong residents, at least as far as I'm aware, since the man who would eventually become our very short-lived Minister of Finance, Des van Rooyen, was still mayor of Merafong. So that's, at least for me, the earliest I became aware of the issue of sinkholes in Khutsong. That's around 2004, thereabouts. And that for me was the first time I became aware of the issue. Well, Parliament's Select Committee on Public Petitions and Executive Undertakings is the latest to say that they have heard the cries of Khutsong residents. Its chairperson, Ufense Mokai, will speak to me after 7 a.m. But it's got me wondering, why has it taken so long to, at the very least, attend to, if you consider this to be attending to the matter, what is clearly an emergency, at least for the residents. It is an emergency. Clearly, that's a situation that can or possibly has even led to a loss of life and, has already led to extensive damage to property, which you see all the time. I mean, you should see the pictures. They're quite dramatic. So I'm wondering, are we waiting for people to die before there's action on this issue, before people are finally relocated, before the undertakings of various administrations, the Premier of Gauteng in the state of the province last year, various MECs? Are we waiting for people to die before there's action on that situation? And I want you to expand it and take it even further, if you don't mind. Talk to me about instances that you are aware of where the right course of action to avert loss of life or extensive damage to property is clear to everyone, but it's just not being taken. Let me give you examples. Centurion, for example, we all know is located on a floodplain, and you will remember the bad flooding that happened in 2018, 2019, where people were being airlifted out of apartments with military helicopters. Have any mitigation interventions been undertaken since then, or are we waiting for the next flood? The 6,000 abandoned mines that we talk about that have fed into this phenomenon we're now dealing with. Another example, acid mine drainage in areas like Gauteng, etc., etc. Weigh in and highlight for me those instances that you think we should be aware of, that the course of action is clear, but it's just not being taken. And perhaps in a cynical way, we can say we are waiting for people to die before action is taken. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. The other issue that we will be touching on will also tell you about a new e-hailing application that has been launched in Centurion and Pretoria. It is called, and thanks to the reporting of our colleagues at News 24 for this, it is called Vanatu. It is a play on the Afrikaans expression Varnatu, which means where to in English. Well, it's gotten a few people talking because it seeks to only employ drivers who can speak Afrikaans. According to the business's owners, while speaking Afrikaans competently is a prerequisite for the drivers who are employed by the platform, anyone can use the service, and that's an important detail. Anyone can use the service as the app has an English translation button for users. So with our country's history, it's only natural that a service that seeks to employ, only people who can speak Afrikaans would be a huge talking point. But should it be? That's the question I'm asking you. Afrikaans is one of the 12 official languages, of course, in the country, and is the third most spoken language in the country, spoken by some 10.06% of the population. And according to the Census 2022, that amounted to some 6.57 million people who speak Afrikaans as their first language at home. And the majority of its speakers actually are not white South Africans, as some may presume. So should we be checking ourselves then for the assumptions many of us immediately jump to upon hearing of platforms that insist on the use of one language, in particular when that language is Afrikaans? Given the decline, and this is part of the question I'm asking you, given the decline in the use of indigenous South African languages and the growing undue dominance of English, is there something for other languages to learn and emulate here, to try and promote their use in day-to-day economic transactions, and importantly to do so without unfairly discriminating against other South Africans in a manner that violates our constitution and our imperatives around non-racialism and equality? The owners of this app, and I must say this again, for instance, they insist that they don't only employ white Afrikaans speakers or even first language speakers. You just have to speak it competently, and you can speak any other language. And as I said, other people, we are told, can book this service even if you don't speak Afrikaans, because there's an English translation button on the app. So that's what I want us to have a sober conversation and a mature conversation that takes into account all of these factors around the development or otherwise of other languages outside of English. Are we at a point where some languages will have to resort to certain measures that insist that in certain context you get people to use that language in day-to-day transactions in our economy? I'll take your calls on that and other issues that we will cover throughout the show. Of course, all of your regulars, we have them locked and loaded for you once again this morning. And Musa with your news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Dauleng Lichela has your economics, business and market news covered. And Sipho Mantula will come through with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Thursday edition of The Morning Brief starts now.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Hey, Anne, good morning.
Good morning, Tulas.
You see, you did that thing again.
It's not me.
What's with the pause? A split, I don't need to tell you, a split second on radio is a lifetime. I'm like,
well,
where's this woman now? What's on your diary this morning?
Well, lots of pressure on the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, to take action against Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Ntshabeni. She's accused of having benefited from a 2.5 million rand tender while she was a municipal manager. So analysis on the allegations as well as questions on, the President applying his mind when appointing ministers. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing allegations of of sexual harassment against the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge continues. Complainant Andiswa Mengo faces further grilling by Mbenenge's counsel. She was questioned yesterday on her evidence that she allegedly received sexually explicit images from the judge. And yesterday, the ANC KZN Alliance held a briefing to address key political, social and economic issues, but opted to remain mum on the decision by the party's national leadership to reconfigure the provincial structure. And today, the ANC in Gauteng expected to have a briefing ahead of the reconfiguration of its leadership. E-hailing taxi operators are expected to embark on a strike, and this is over a host of issues, including the impounding of vehicles and issues relating to operating permits. In Bloemfontein, the Free State High Court is expected to deliver judgment in the application by the former personal assistant of the then Free State Premier Ace Magashule. It is in a bid to have her arrest declared unlawful, and Muruwadi Cholota, she's facing fraud and corruption charges in relation to the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal in the Free State. And just lastly, the Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Gwede Mantashe, is releasing the mine health and safety stats for the 2024 calendar year, and the minister will be giving figures and the performance of the mining industry, looking at fatalities, injuries as well as occupational diseases. Some of the stories that we are focusing on.
All right, and thank you for that. We'll be hearing from Anne every half hour with your news updates here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So, a bit overcast here in Johannesburg, at least at this point. Let me give you two warnings that have come through from the South African Weather Service. The first one is a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours, damaging winds, large amounts of small hail and severe lightning, resulting in localized flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas and bridges, localized damage to infrastructure and informal settlements. And those conditions are expected over the southwestern parts of KwaZulu-Natal and in places in the northeast and north-central parts of the Eastern Cape. Then there's a yellow level 1 warning. It says damaging winds and waves resulting in difficulty in navigation, small vessels taking on water and vessels dragging anchor, and those are expected between Oyster Bay and Port Edward. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 29 the temperatures there. Johannesburg, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 27. Bombela will be cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 31. Bulukwane, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 29. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 31. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 30. Kimberley will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 34. Cape Town, partly cloudy with a slight chance of mist in the early hours of the morning, and it will be 21 to 26 the temperatures there. George will see morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 27. Gqeberha will see morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy, 20 to 30. East London will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers from the afternoon, 21 to 30. Durban will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 22 to 29. Richards Bay, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 22 to 31. And finally, Pietermaritzburg, also partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 32.
Mama,
This F-bomb brought to you by Sanlam.
they are called lone sharks, not lone bunny rabbits, not lone puppies, cutesy cutesy. The clue is in the name, Mama.
Finances is not a dirty word. Let's talk about it, Mzansi. Find out how at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services and registered credit provider.
With Ford's Blue Sky offers, get a new Ranger XL from just $5,899 per month, including our optional service plan. 10% deposit, prime less 4.75%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
21 minutes after 6. Let's focus on the story now. Panama has written to the United Nations over what it says is U.S. President Donald Trump's worrying threat to seize the Panama Canal. In a letter to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the government in Panama City referred to an article of the UN Charter preventing any member state from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of another. The letter sent on Tuesday urges Guterres to refer the matter to the UN Security Council. Let's welcome Unathi Sonti, who is the executive chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So just your own thoughts. What have you made of this claims? It's an important trade passageway, the Panama Canal, is it? And what do the threats by Donald Trump to take it from Panama, what do they mean for the flow of trade through the Panama Canal?
Good morning, Petulas and SFM listeners. No, thank you. Indeed, this is one of, the biggest trade routes. You would note that the Panama Canal moves easily and is used by Asia and the U.S. For the U.S. to proclaim that, one, is their understanding and their, takeover, which then talks to them, putting them to starting to being that economic, global power. It's for them to be able to maintain their U.S. influence and, trade and their regional trade within the area.
But given the importance, of the Panama Canal for the flow of trade, do you at the very least understand why it would be attractive to Donald Trump, why Trump would seek to make it such an important issue for him in his second term?
I think part of his program of making America great again, you would note that there are certain laws that they are applying, especially when it comes to their Jones Law, which is a cabotage, where vessels that moves, within the U.S. territorial waters must be operated by U.S.-based companies. So it means that whatever that will be, crossing through the passage of the Panama Canal would also be under such, laws as well. And then secondly, if the U.S. has now, since they have declared now that, they are no longer part of the Paris Agreement, and they would now continue with drilling, which is the drill, baby, drill, concept, then it means this is going to be easy for them to be able to facilitate the transportation of, LNG and oil to global markets.
LNG being liquefied natural gas, right?
Yes, LNG, yes.
So, we've seen, I think recently we saw, was it a vessel that had sort of caused disruption, if I remember correctly, on the Suez Canal. Mm-hmm. If there would be, because Trump is not ruling out the use of military force to take the Panama Canal, how disruptive would that be to not just trade between, North America, Asia, but global trade?
Remember, the route itself, every year, transports about, 14,000 vessels per year. That obviously tells you that it's going to be, a serious disruption. And at this point, where one is not clear in terms of, because remember, for the past, during this process where we've had the Red Sea challenges, where the Suez Canal has not been operational to its optimum, level. There's been also challenges with the Panama Canal around as well, its inability to be able to operate due to water shortages, as the canal is man-made and relies on, rainwater for it to be able to have enough water to be able to be used as such a passage. So that also becomes one of the critical things that one thinks of, just to say probably they would now put in a new investment and that take over, but that will disrupt shipping, and it will obviously disrupt, and it's part of his war with China, the trade wars with China.
And broadly speaking, Unathi, what are the rules internationally that would kick in and come into play around considerations? This is in the high seas, I imagine, but also, as you say, there's massive investment in the infrastructure that allows the shipping route to actually operate efficiently. If Donald Trump is to proceed with trying to take over the Panama Canal, what international rules would that bring into play around maritime, the maritime regime?
Look, at this stage, remember, the canal is under the Panama Canal Authority, and it enjoys its own, regulations in terms of all the agreements that are there within the IMO. And it is why the Panama, the government has returned to SG at IMO level, because there must be a respect of territorial waters. So if then one comes in and interrupts that as being part of the council itself and the member states, then that is going to disrupt that entire agreement that is there, the respect of, the territorial waters, and also it's going to come in and also interrupt the issues that will talk to the right of passage.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for your insights there. That's Unathi Sonti, who is the executive chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me take a quick call from Mboneni in Ennerdale. Good morning to you, Mboneni. The issue of translators, I imagine you're talking in courts, foremost on your mind this morning.
Very good morning, Thulas, and thanks for taking my call, and good morning to SA listeners. The reason I'm calling, we had two interviews, I think it was Tuesday and yesterday, with one corporate justice government. What I want to say, Thulas, is that I was not happy with the person that you have on the interview on Tuesday, because he was talking that the law and it's not that nature in terms of cultural and all those sort of things. However, I've done the diploma in legal interpretation, which we are going to be confirmed by the South African Translators Institute, which is SATI. Therefore, the courses that are there, we study law theory and legal interpretation. So all these interpreters in the court of law, what they should know, they must know the legality terms, so that they will be able to understand what's going on in the court of law. So most that I have seen in the court, they don't understand most of the legality law terms and all those sort of, that's where the problem is. For example, I will also indicate yesterday when we spoke about reconfiguration. So you can find out that when a person comes with such a word, and because they are not reading more on legal ways, then it's a problem to interpret. But I found the person that you interview on Tuesday, and I think you must call them back, and then they go further to explain these things. And I'm glad, Thulas, that the one that you interviewed yesterday, he indicated that there is a school called Brigade Mabanda for the law
in Pretoria.
So I think I'm going to see that school, because really we are professionals. Sooner will be declared professional interpreters in the Republic of South Africa. So that was my input, that those people interviewed, they must come to the party and explain this, because people are opening companies in interpretation and they just get everyone who knows Zulu or Venda or Tsonga to go to the court of law. So on my side, we are dealing with languages like Swahili, all those African languages that in the court, so they are dealing the court procedure.
Bonin, thank you so much for sharing that. Those insights are really valuable from someone who's walking the talk. Thank you there to Mboneni. And I'm glad we've had this conversation, and I'm glad it's opened up, because, of course, as we've been saying in the last few days, and Mboneni has again pointed out, the role of court interpreters is indispensable in ensuring that justice is dispensed in a proper manner according to our Constitution. All right, let's check in now with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the High Court in Bloemfontein in the Free State is today expected to deliver judgment in the case of former Premier Ace Magashule's former personal assistant. 37-year-old Murwari Chilota is seeking to have her arrest declared unlawful and a fraud and corruption charges withdrawn. Pressures mounting on President Cyril Ramaphosa to take action against Minister in the Presidency Kumbutso Ntshabeni. She's accused of corruption. And Thailand's long-awaited equal marriage law has come into effect today. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Gauteng looks all right. Everything where it should be really for this time of morning. Although one standout, the Golden Highway coming out of Eldos up in towards Devlin territory. That's quite slow this morning. Crossing to Durban, Hans Stutman Highway heading up to Wiltshire Road. That's backlogging. Marion Hill, the Richmond Road moving through central Marion Hill. That's quite slow. And there's just some traffic building up coming out of Munzamtoti up and down Tweedy Hill into the Prospecton area, looking a little bit slow. And then Cape Town, two major bottlenecks on the highways this morning. The N1 inbound. It's a broken down truck pretty much in the middle of the N1 at Yipti Yaga, just after the Durban Road exit to Belleville. That's pushing a heavy queue back to Brackenfell, and then behind that the R300 is starting to queue coming out through Brackenfell to get into the N1. Also the N2 has a broken down bus on the side of the highway by Rappenberg Road in the Pinelands area, and that is pushing a queue almost back as far as the airport. So your two big highways, N1 and N2, under some pretty heavy pressures this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai.
Good morning.
I'm out of electricity-related analogies. So, Sundowns have switched off the Magesi, yeah?
Oh my gosh. Wow. And how they did it. I think it was the Limpopo humidity that also added to everything. Drama, 2 goals, 2 red cards. I don't know what you call this, a PSL special, because that's what it felt like.
Electrifying.
There we go. We brought it back. Sundowns, they're absolutely electrifying, claiming revenge over Magesi FC, opening a 6-point lead, by the way, at the top of the Betway Premiership with a 2-0 win at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium. Wonder boy Makubu giving Magesi the lead with a header in the 12th minute, but Lucas Ribeiro equalized with a stunning acrobatic goal in the second half. Tashreeq Matthews secured the win with a deflected shot in the 86th minute. And of course, the game wasn't without drama. Both teams ended with 10 men following a late off-the-ball incident that saw Samuel Dapo and Divine Lunga sent off. Despite multiple injuries to key players, Sundowns held their nerve to secure maximum points and maintain their momentum at the top of the league. In the meantime, the Premier Soccer League announced it had suspended all matches involving Royal AM until the KwaZulu-Natal club presents its case to the league, and that's tomorrow. The club, which has been placed under curatorship by SARS, will meet the league's executives to make representations on the situation after failing to assure the league it could meet its fixture commitments. Royal have not played a match in the league since their 3-1 loss to TS Galaxy, and that was on the 29th of December. Elsewhere, Kai Havertz set one up and then scored himself as Arsenal all but sealed their spot in the Champions League last 16 with a 3-0 win over Dynamo Zagreb. Another match, Real Madrid giving their ambitions to defend their Champions League title a huge boost. 5-1 was their win to eliminate Red Bull Salzburg. Now this win and the result guarantees Madrid at least a playoff spot, and they are 1 point off the automatic qualification place with a visit to Brest on the final match day next week. In the meantime, Shakhtar Donetsk eased to a 2-0 win against Brest in the Champions League, defying the high-flying French side's hopes of earning an automatic spot in the last 16. Manchester City's chances of Champions League progress are in peril. They lost 4-2 against Paris Saint-Germain at Parc des Princes. Let's hear from Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, they were better. We have to accept it. So we have the last chance at home against Bruges. We'll do everything there. And if it's not, it's because we don't deserve it. So we have away tough games, but of course the game against Inter, especially in Feyenoord, they put it in that position, but it's not about just that. We can qualify, but we have to, of course, after that, you have to recover players and do it better. So it's simple as that. So they were better, have to accept it. And sport is like that.
On to cricket. South Africa's under-19 women, they were better. They are through to the Super 6 stage of the ICC Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup following their victory against Nigeria's under-19 women in their final group stage encounter. The match was reduced to 8 overs per side after rain interrupted play. Chasing a DLS-adjusted target of 65, Nigeria struggled to find their footing against a disciplined South African bowling attack. The junior Proteas restricted Nigeria to 24 for 8, claiming a comfortable 41-run victory to remain unbeaten and secure the top spot in Group C. And that's a wrap of your morning brief sport. There'll be more top of the hour for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Yeah, with our first update of the morning, let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, so we start with news relating to Google. A few months ago, I think you and I spoke about that massive figure that you can hardly pronounce that
exactly.
the Russian government had fined Google. So Google has now secured a victory against that in a UK court.
Morning, Silas, that's absolutely right. Google securing a huge victory in the UK court, blocking Russian media firms from seizing its global assets to recover Russian court-imposed fines. Now, these fines were imposed after Google blocked YouTube channels of 3 Russian media groups owned or controlled by sanctioned individuals. The Russian media companies, including one that runs RT TV channels, had launched cases in several countries, including South Africa, Spain and Vietnam, in an attempt to enforce the Russian judgment against Google. But Google pushed back in the UK and US courts, arguing that the Russian fines were unfair and should not be enforced. Now, the estimated value of those fines, as we mentioned, a number we cannot even say, is around $125 million, a number with 30 zeros. And to put this into perspective,
I'm sorry, sorry, darling. I don't mean to laugh. Say that number again.
125 million.
A million.
$1 million.
Okay.
I think to put things into perspective, right? Google's market cap is $2.4 trillion. And according to the World Bank, the world's GDP was just over $106 trillion at the end of 2023. Now, put that up against $125 million. It's some crazy numbers. Some crazy numbers.
It is.
Now, the Russian court had ordered Google to reinstate the blocked YouTube channels or face safety penalties that double every week. The UK court ruling is a significant win for Google as it prevents the Russian media firms from seizing its global assets. Meanwhile, this case also just highlighting the complexities of international law and the challenges faced by multinational companies in navigating different legal systems in different countries.
So some news relating to the energy sector. Tell me about Copper 360 acquiring a wind farm.
So the local copper player is jumping into the renewable energy space. The group announced the acquisition of Mulilo Springbok wind power, a 55-megawatt wind energy project located in the Northern Cape. The acquisition set to be completed by early February, and under the terms of the agreement, Copper 360 will pay an initial cash consideration of 5 million rand, followed by an additional 1 million rand per megawatt of installed capacity. Now, the project has already secured the necessary environmental permits, and Copper 360 plans to investigate a wider renewable energy supply strategy, which may include participating in energy production. According to the company's CEO, Shirley Hayes, the acquisition supports the company's energy security goals and demonstrates its commitment to sustainability. Now, Copper 360 has made progress in building a strong foundation for its copper production business, including the commissioning of 2 processing plants and the conclusion of long-term offtake agreements. The acquisition of Mulilo is a strategic move to secure renewable energy for Copper 360's operations and reduce its reliance on non-renewable energy sources.
All right, give us our first roundup of the markets for this morning, please.
So global markets continued to power through, with U.S. markets in the green in yesterday's trading session. The upbeat performance was boosted by optimism around Trump 2.0, as well as the upbeat mood in the AI industry. With that, NASDAQ gaining the most today, closing 1.3% higher. The upbeat momentum, however, not filtering through to local markets, with the JSE mostly in the red. The All-Share closing just 0.25% lower in yesterday's trading session. This fueled by a 0.55% decline in Financial 15. The rand, in the meantime, sitting at its best level in a month, trading at 18.50 to the dollar. And then over in Asia, markets making a comeback this morning following a mixed finish yesterday. Markets were mostly in the green.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela with the first of her 3 updates on news to do with the economy, business, and the markets for you here on The Morning Brief.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The Natal Rich Boys want to demonstrate their wealth with a win to reach the last 16. But the Buccaneers say they will illustrate why they are the reigning champions. This is the Nedbank Cup round of 32. British Bay FC battles it out with Orlando Pirates FC this Sunday, 26 January at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the All SASA Gold Cards will stop working on the 28th of February 2025. Replace yours today with the new Postbank Black Card at no cost. Join hundreds of thousands of grant beneficiaries already receiving their grants on their new Postbank Black Cards. For your convenience, you can collect your card at multiple locations nationwide. Card replacement points are at selected ShopRite Checkers, Pick n Pay and Boxer stores. To find a location near you, dial *120 *218 *3#. Don't wait. Upgrade your card today for free. Trusted by millions for 150 years. Postbank, your bank.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
So I want to take a quick WhatsApp voice note as well as a call before talking about this new e-hailing application that insists that they would like to employ only drivers who can speak Afrikaans. Let's listen to one of your voice notes now.
Hi, Tulas. The issue of the platform in Africans. The truth is we should not be complaining. The only thing that shows when we complain is playing again the victimhood mentality. The Afrikaner community in South Africa is showing us the way. They are making progress that we should have started making 30 years ago. We don't care about ourselves. We don't really want to move, and we don't want to progress. And therefore, we should stop complaining and start acting and developing this for our own. There are many, many opportunities for black communities to do what the Afrikaners are doing.
All right, thank you for that. Let me quickly take a call from Hendrik in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Hendrik. Also on the same issue.
Good morning to us, to you and the listeners. I agree with your previous caller. Nothing in law prevents any one of us to come up with such an innovative idea. Entrepreneurs from other language groups should rather learn from what guys or ladies in the Afrikaans speaking community is doing. When they decide to offer to the market a product such as this e-hailing service calling Waar Na Toe or Where To, or such as Lekker Slaap, which provides accommodation or bookings online, such as, similar to Booking.com, for instance, or the Verseker insurance product, which was also started from within the Afrikaans-speaking community. Nothing stops any other language group or entrepreneur from those groups to do it. But I think the allure or the misconception that speaking in English and doing things in English, that prevents us from thinking smart about making such offerings. Now, here is a distinguishing factor. I'm speaking as a colored Afrikaans-speaking person, and we are, because a lot of listeners does not seem to know that yet, the majority of Afrikaans speakers in this country.
Gotcha.
So they often refer to the privilege of being Afrikaans-speaking. That privilege only applies to a certain sector in the Afrikaans-speaking community. So it is true that some amongst us in the Afrikaans-speaking community, or in South Africa from any language group, does enjoy the access to investors and to networks with money that allow them to get seed money, for instance. Whereas to the majority of Afrikaans-speaking people, which are colored people, that access is not available. And maybe also not available to speakers from any of the other group, whether it's isiXhosa or isiZulu or Sepedi. But then that becomes a different debate. And all I wanted to say is, big up to these guys. I think it's fantastic.
Hendrik, thank you for that. That's Hendrik out in Cape Town there. In fact, let's take the conversation forward. I'm joined now by Melithemba Mnguni, who is the Secretary General of the E-Hailing Partners Council. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So this concept, what do you make of it? It's called Vanatu, which is a play, Vanatu, which is a play on Varnatu, which means where to. As industry players, what do you make of this concept?
We've seen this new e-hailing platform. We are concerned, but this has been expected. This is a symptom of impunity that is there within the e-hailing space. We've been crying for regulation of these applications for the longest time. And as it stands currently, there are no guidelines around them. That's why you can have such an app that is discriminative and only selective for a certain a tribe or race. And then here they are using the language to discriminate. And we are actually curious to see if indeed they will even hire black Africans that can speak Afrikaans. Because so far, if you zoom into it, you'll see that it only has got white drivers within the platform. We view this as on two ways. It is discriminative, but also we think this is an economic move that they have made. If you've been following, which I know you have, Thulasizwe, the e-hailing industry, there's been an outcry on exploitation, issues of safety for drivers that are dying on daily basis. And as a result, it's no longer profitable within this platform. And we believe that the Afrikaners have had to come up with their platform, which if you look at the prices, we were finding it interesting that they are saying they are having this for vulnerable people. But when you look at their prices, are much more expensive than these platforms. Then it does not make logic to say it's for vulnerable people when it's pricier than the current platform.
Melithemba, very quickly, how can you sustain the argument that it's discriminating against certain people when they say that you don't need to be a first language speaker of Afrikaans to be employed? So if you are someone as proficient in Afrikaans as the prosecutor in the Senzo Meyiwa case, Mr. Baloyi, for example, just using him as an example, black guy who's proficient in Afrikaans, you could get a job according to what they are telling us. Also, as a non-Afrikaans speaker, you can actually book and ride with the service. So how is it discriminatory?
The proof is in the pudding. That's why I said we wait to see that indeed they can have Thulasizwe as a proficient African speaking, but being black. But like I said already, if you download the passengers app and try to request, you would see currently you would only see white drivers. There are no black drivers within that platform.
All right, I've got you. Thank you for that. That's Melithemba Mnguni, who is the Secretary General of the E-Hailing Partners Council. And I must mention that we did reach out to the founders of the Vanatu app. We actually spoke to them yesterday with expectations that they would come onto the show, but they did not respond. And we, called, we emailed, and we will continue to reach out to them. And in fact, the invitation stands for them to actually share with us their perspectives on this development.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quick update, Joburg Gen 3, very heavy this morning from Galulis up through to the Modderfontein exit. It's a stationary vehicle before you get to the Eden Vale exit that's causing that backlog. Durban's N2 already fully loaded up in terms of queues between the M7 and Westwood Mall. And Cape Town, the stationary truck on the M1 inbound at Yipteyag is being cleared, but it's left a very busy N1 this morning from Brackenfell all the way through to Kubo. Get a change. The N2 is struggling with some queues passing Khayelitsha towards the R300, and then from the round about the airport exit, the N2 backs up, passing a crash at Langa, and then a broken down bus on the side of the highway at Rappenburg. So basically the N2 slow from the airport all the way through those two obstructions in towards Mowbray Main Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let me tell you this story now. The sugar industry says the health promotion levy is a continued threat to the industry's sustainability. Commonly referred to as the sugar tax, the levy, which was introduced in 2018, is increased yearly on beverages containing sugar. The South African Sugar Association has warned that the levy poses severe risks to jobs and livelihoods. Let's speak now to Cedric Maboya, who is the communications and media officer, the spokesperson of the South African Sugar Association. My apologies for that. Good morning to you, Cedric, and thank you for your time. So the concern, the sugar tax has been in place since 2018 and it continues. What concerns you about its impact at this point? Because the other side of the argument that we are hearing from health activists is that actually it is achieving the goal that it was intended to achieve.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I would like to greet your listeners as well. Yes, we are extremely concerned about the deleterious impact of the sugar tax, the HPL. Since its introduction in April 2018, we have had multi-billion rand revenue loss, substantial job losses, and we've had permanent closure of 2 sugar mills, Danal in the north of KwaZulu-Natal and Umzimkhulu sugar mills south of KwaZulu-Natal. And if you go to Danal, you will see now it has become a ghost town because there is no critical economic activity which emanates from the sugar industry. What the detractors are saying about the sugar tax, saying that it is having an impact, I think it's a simplistic approach to say let us target sugar as a low-hanging fruit. If you look at research, you will see that sugar tax mechanism has not really had a significance worldwide. So we argue that there has to be a study which was conducted to find out what South Africans are eating. And we are glad that the Department of Health has commissioned one, the total dietary intake study, which has been completed. We are waiting the results with anticipation. Therefore, we can be able to systematically, or in a way which is measured and comprehensive, and deal with the issue of non-communicable diseases, because we are also committed to ensuring that people adhere to a healthy living style. we cannot really demonize sugar as a substance and say it is responsible for obesity, whereas there are other carbohydrate foods which may be responsible for that. Hence, the study that was conducted to have evidence to see how do we approach this manner in a balanced approach, not in a simplistic manner, because it's a complex issue.
But you've got to start somewhere, Cedric, don't you? I mean, you're right in pointing out that there may be other food categories and items that contribute to the negative health outcomes of South Africans. But if you've pinpointed that one of them is sugar, you've got to start somewhere. We can't say until we address oil, chips, and the likes, we're not going to address sugar.
The conversation we've had with government as a prerequisite for the introduction of the sugar tax was that a study must be conducted, a total dietary intake study that we're referring to, which has been subsequently conducted, and the issue as well of socio-economic impact assessment. There was no proper socio-economic impact assessment which was done. It has been subsequently done. Now it's been done by the presidency to look at the post-2021 impact of the sugar tax. We're saying that everything must be done correctly. There must be no rush. Everything must be done so that we are balancing different interests here. We are fully committed to the issue of saying that, previously, as the association which represents the sugar industry, we work closely with government in terms of providing outdoor gyms, in terms of providing education on healthy living and the issue of the usage of sugar. And we are saying that too much of everything is not good for everyone. So we advocate for using of sugar in moderation. We're not saying that we should not be committed to the issue of our health as a nation.
So, we're going to start the cycle in government with the upcoming State of the Nation address, followed by the budget, and that's usually where we look out for what is to be done around taxes and levies. What's your message then, given that calculus that we have to always engage in that says, you talk about socio-economic impacts, I would say, and some would say, the other socio-economic impacts are people contracting type 2 diabetes, as well as the strain on the health system of that, as well as the issues of obesity. So what's your message to government ahead of the start of the cycle, the planning cycle that's about to unfold?
Thank you, Thulasizwe. We have the budget speech coming up on the 19th of February. Yes, the issue you're pointing out, the non-communicable diseases, but there's a multiplicity of factors, as we've alluded to. But we're saying as the industry, we're not dumbsucking, we're not really making up these numbers. We have even commissioned a study which was conducted by BFAP, which is highly regarded independent agricultural consultancy. We said that if the government were to decrease, the government were to decrease the threshold of the levy, it would have ramifications for the industry. It will almost decimate it. The Minister of Finance, gave us a 2-year moratorium in 2023, saying that giving us time to restructure and diversify. But what we have found through our intensive research is that the time is insufficient. We have now engaged with government asking for the extension to be in line with the master plan, whose lifespan expires in 2030, in order for us to diversify. So we're basically saying that, and then we imploring government that the moratorium should be in place. We do realize that in order for the sustainability of the industry to be secured, we have to look at other product diversification opportunities which we have identified, including sustainable aviation fuel, your bioethanol for fuel blending, cogeneration, and so forth.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Cedric Maboya, who is the spokesperson of the South African Sugar Association. Bringing us to 7 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, court to hand down judgment in Cholota's bid to have charges dropped, And security situation in eastern DRC continues to worsen. Good morning. The High Court in Bloemfontein in the Free State is today expected to deliver judgment in the case of former Premier Ace Magashule's former personal assistant. 37-year-old Murwari Chulota is seeking to have her arrest declared unlawful and a fraud and corruption charges withdrawn. The charges against her relate to the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal contract scandal. Chulota was extradited from the US in August last year. She's out on bail of 2,500 rand. Pressures mounting on President Cyril Ramaphosa to take action against Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni. She's accused of corruption. This after allegedly benefiting from a 2.5 million rand tender while she was the manager in the Phalaborwa local municipality in Limpopo. Despite refusing to name the person of interest, the Hawks confirmed investigating the matter. Meanwhile, the ANC says Ntshavheni, who is its member, should not be tried through the media as investigations continue. Figilemba Lula is the ANC Secretary General.
Law enforcement in South Africa must not try people through the media and want to find them guilty. If you've got a case, you know what needs to be done. You arrest a person, and then a person get the bail or not get the bail, goes to court, and then that's it. There's no kangaroo court through the media, where now Khumbudzo must explain herself through the media that is guilty or not guilty. Somebody from the Hawks is communicating.
Meanwhile, the DA has called on Ramaphosa to immediately remove Ntshavheni from cabinet, the party's MP Diane Kola-Barnard.
Ntshavheni was under investigation by the Hawks from 2021 and her case now sits with the NPA, and we call on the NPA not to sit on its hands. We insist the President heed the remark of Judge Muller surrounding the repugnant and devastating 2.5 million rand tender in Phalaborwa while Ntshavheni was municipal manager. Mr. President, South Africans deserve better than the growing list of crooks in your cabinet. Do better.
The United Nations has again warned of a deteriorating security situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. This after M23 rebels seized towns and occupied new territories in North Kivu province. Local leaders say the M23 rebels seized the eastern town of Minova this week. The town is a main supply route for the provincial capital Goma, as the DRC army reports fighting on all fronts. Shaun Bryce Peace reports.
The UN has confirmed that the M23 group seized several towns in the country's east in recent days, with the peacekeeping mission MONUSCO reporting heavy clashes between the M23, the DRC army and other armed groups, particularly in the Sake region. This has resulted in casualties and triggered the displacement of some 250,000 people in South Kivu from where the UN peacekeeping mission withdrew last year as part of a phased exit from the country. MONUSCO said it was imperative that M23 lay down its weapons and abide by the ceasefire in place since August 4th. The mission also urged all parties to remain committed to the Luanda process that seeks to diffuse tensions between the DRC and Rwanda.
And finally, Thailand's long-awaited equal marriage law has come into effect today. It's the first country in Southeast Asia to recognize equal marriage and only third in Asia, behind Taiwan and Nepal. The new law seeks to ensure that all couples, regardless of their gender identity and sexual orientation, have equal access to marriage and legal recognition. The BBC's Jonathan Head has the details.
This is a day of celebration for Thailand's LGBTQ+ community. Some of these couples have waited more than 2 decades to see their relationships officially recognized by the state. Thailand has long been famous for its tolerance of diverse sexual identities and lifestyles, but say activists, that is not the same as having legal recognition. Now they can plan lives, homes, families, and matters like inheritance on the same legal footing as every other Thai citizen.
Recapping the top story, the High Court in Bloemfontein in the Free State is today expected to deliver judgment in the case of former Premier Ace Magashule's former personal assistant. 37-year-old Murwari Chulota is seeking to have her arrest declared unlawful and a fraud and corruption charges withdrawn. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This January, to save money, you could cut back on the milk in your cereal, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stationary vehicle on Joburg Gen3 North before Modderfontein has been cleared. It's left a backlog of slow-go traffic from Germiston right through Galulis up to Edenvale. Behind that, the M12 and R24 routes coming in from Ekurhuleni to Galulis are really solidly backed up as well. Looks like a breakdown before Buccleuch. The N1 moving very slowly through from Allendale Road, and the main road from Lone Hill through a couple of faulty lights around Vickhoppen Road into Bryanston is pretty heavily backed as well. Durban, the Commercial Highway from Dust Road, heavy down towards the N2 highway. A lot of congestion around Umlazi this morning, so we'll just keep an eye on that, up around sort of Mega City and central Umlazi. Very unusual backlogs there. The R102 that links Umkomaas and Skopra is closed due to a mudslide. There was a lot of rain and a big storm that moved through the greater Durban region last night, and it seems that the most of the heavy stuff was around that Umkomaas area, so instead of the R102, you'll be shipped up the N2 as the alternative route this morning. And Cape Town, pretty heavy on the N2, queues at Khayelitsha down to the R300. Then from the airport, it's pretty heavily backed all the way through to Main Road, including a crash on the side of the highway in front of Langa. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. It is cricket action as Marco Jansen dazzles. The Sunrisers crush the Capitals in Gqeberha. And in soccer action, Mamelodi Sundowns beat Magesi FC to open a 6-point lead. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 7. Good morning. It's good to be in your company this morning. We are into the second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Let me start here. In the last interview we did in the last hour, and I only do this because it was quite glaring. As I was saying a few days ago, the smart money, smart advice in broadcasting is you make a mistake, move on from it swiftly. But when it's glaring, you've got to own it. I kept referring to Cedric Mboyisa as Cedric Maboya. So there was miscommunication and a bit of confusion in terms of the guest, and it's partly to do with, in broadcasting things do change at the very last minute. But my apologies to Cedric, and I'm quite embarrassed because I do know Cedric Mboyisa quite well. So just for the record, the guest we were talking to from the South African Sugar Association is Cedric Mboyisa, who is the Group Communications and Media Manager there. So my apologies to him and to anyone else who found that to be quite disturbing. Right, let me tell you what's coming up in this hour. We will talk about that situation in Khutsong, those sinkholes, as well as the multiple undertakings by administration after administration to say that the issue of sinkholes will finally be addressed in Khutsong. We'll have two conversations. We have two conversations lined up for you within the next few minutes on that issue. We'll also touch on concerns that are being raised by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition in Parliament, that is Mzwandile Masina, about the practices, the lending practices of banks, right? He's saying that South Africa's major banks will be called to Parliament to answer some questions. He says, if I remember the phrase correctly, he's worried that in terms of the lending practices of banks, they find it easy to extend loans for consumption, but not for production. So he wants us to have that conversation as South Africans. We've got that conversation lined up for you with Mzwandile Masina within this half hour. I wonder what your reflections are on the lending practices of banks. Do you find it easier to get money through a credit card and the likes, consumption spending, versus you want to borrow money to start a business? That's the way that I understand Mzwandile Masina's concern to be. So he will explain. I will talk to him in the next few minutes. Weigh in, though, on that issue as well. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Natal Rich Boys want to demonstrate their wealth with a win to reach the last 16. But the Buccaneers say they will illustrate why they are the reigning champions. This is the Nedbank Cup round of 32. British Bay FC battles it out with Orlando Pirates FC this Sunday, 26 January at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
12 minutes after 7. Residents of Khutsong in Carltonville, west of Gauteng, say they fear losing their homes to sinkholes after several of them appeared in the last few weeks. Sinkholes are common in the area and residents have complained about them for years. Residents have this week given a petition to the Select Committee on Public Petitions and Executive Undertakings, in which they say that sinkholes have left many families displaced and have also affected water quality and damaged infrastructure in the area. Let's speak to Ufense Mokai, who is the chairperson of the Select Committee on Petitions and Executive Undertakings. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So, what about the latest petitions that have been submitted by residents of Khutsong has moved you into action, and what exactly does action look like? What will you be doing in response to the petitions you've received?
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe. Good morning to your listeners and to the residents of Khutsong. We received a petition actually last year in August, around about August, because you remember the 7th Parliament started in July. So we were elected in July, and we received one of the first petitions that came to our table was the petition from Khutsong. And immediately we acted upon it. We then drafted a program to go and see for ourselves, because it's important that even though you see something in paper, go and see for yourself. And in October, on the 24th of October 2024, the committee, I led it to the Khutsong area. We met with the petitioner. We listened to their plight. We had the representatives from the municipality as well as from the provincial government. But we also went into the community to go see what was happening on the ground. And from there, we came back as a committee. We then drafted a report as a committee. And that report has been 80 feet. In Parliament, it's 80 feet. And what we are waiting upon now is that it must be adopted as an official document of Parliament with those recommendations in terms of what action must be taken moving forward.
What does your report find, particularly as it relates to, and I know the caveat that you're making that it still needs to be adopted, but in terms of what its findings are as they stand today, what does it find around why this issue has not been addressed despite being raised for the better part of the last 2 decades?
One of the most important things that we picked up is that there is no comprehensive action. So what will happen is that there's been bits and pieces here. The municipality would have done moving people to temporary housing. You will find that the provincial government threw a bit of money there, to assist. But there is no comprehensive program of action to deal with the crisis in Khutsong. And I must stress that in the committee, I said to the community, the problem that we're having in our country is that we see challenges, we see crisis in front of our faces, but we don't act decisively. And only after after the effect, then want to call for a commission of inquiry, or then want to come with an investigation after probably a loss of life or the displacement of households in the community. That's an opportune moment for us as South Africa, and particularly as a state, to act to prevent
what could be a disaster in the area, which is already happening, because when you look at the symbols, it's damaging. Infrastructure has fallen, houses have been destroyed, and families have been displaced.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most important things is to act to prevent such crisis happening in our country.
So what will you be doing then? I hear the part about the report that you've compiled that needs to be adopted. What's your next steps? Because it's also in your name as a committee on petitions, and importantly, underline here, executive undertakings. The undertakings have been there. They've been reiterated over and over with very little by way of comprehensive program of action, as you put it. What's your next steps to ensure that that comprehensive program of action is put into place?
Central to the report is accountability. Starting from the municipality has to give a full account, because there's also a number of corruption and fraud that has been leveled against the municipality. The senior officials there, the mayor, in terms of the funds that have been allocated. And it's true, there's almost 17 million that has been thrown to address this issue. But when you look at what the reality on the ground, it does not speak to that. So number one is accountability from the municipality to the citizen. And then number two is going to be accountability from the office of the premier, because he has also made a number of undertakings in terms of intervention, but we can't see that intervention.
Yeah.
Number three is the provincial government, which is COCTA. It must also account for the billions, because when we received oral presentations, one of the officials that spoke of billions of money that has been thrown there. They said they've done studies, but those things do not show anything. You can't see for what has been done in the community. So central to the report of Parliament and central from the exercise that we are undertaking now is accountability. Everybody has must roll. And that is the message that I've communicated. And as a multi-party committee, there is a same spirit that we're moving into, say, heads must hold. And these are the three key stakeholders: Office of the Premier, the Merafe Municipality, and the provincial government, the COCTA, to come and account for what's happening for the people of Kutsong.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Ufense Mokai, who is the chairperson of Parliament's Select Committee on Petitions and Executive Undertakings. One of those three bodies that he mentioned there that need to be accounting now joins me in terms of representation. Theo Nkonki is the spokesperson of the Gauteng Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC. Good morning to you, Theo, and thank you for your time. Let me put this suggestion to you. You are dealing with a crisis in Gauteng that has to do with those sinkholes. It's been developing over a period of, at least as far as I'm aware, at least 2 decades, but you are lethargic as a government in responding to it, and you are not treating it as a crisis. You are waiting for people to die.
Good morning, Thulas, and good morning to the listeners as well. I think, Thulas, what you've just stated is quite important to note, and I think the last statement may not be true, though, because there's been quite a few efforts that we've been coordinating as COCTA to make sure that all the spheres of government get involved in making sure that we detect and making sure that we are also ready for any process of disaster. As I speak to you, there's quite a lot of resources that have been allocated to that area, especially to deal with disaster management. Because also another complication with sinkholes is that it's not that easy to almost predict when they're going to occur and the extent of the occurrence. So we need to be ready in terms of making sure if anything happens, we've got a disaster management site, and it's manned by the municipality, the Department of Health, together with staff from the Department of COCTA. So as much as we acknowledge some of the things mentioned by the previous speaker, we really believe that some of these problems, to us, because of the extent and magnitude of these problems, that we have made a mistake perhaps in the past is leaving the local municipality to deal with the issues on its own. What we are emphasizing on, especially right now when we have held our turnaround summit just in October, is to say that all spheres of government need to talk to each other, and we need to intervene as one government whenever problems occur. With sinkholes, as I said, it's quite difficult to predict how they behave because they are happening underground. But in terms of preparedness and in terms of coordination, it is true that COCTA is leading in making sure that all spheres are coordinated.
Theo, I don't know if I accept the explanation that says it's hard to predict because, they occur underground and the likes. My understanding is that over the years, at least 2 decades, and again I reiterate, there have been studies commissioned, at the very least, even if you can't predict where it will occur next, you should by now as a government have a sense of the epicenter of these sinkholes is around this area, and therefore the people that live in, I don't know, just randomly, Extension 3 in Khutsong, we should make a plan to relocate them to another part of Mirafong. That is what I don't understand. Having done studies, geological, etc., commissioned them at high cost, how do you not understand how the problem unfolds?
So perhaps I wasn't understood, Thulas. I was speaking more on the disaster management and the anticipation. But in terms of those studies, yes, indeed, there are places where we are relocating people from places that have been identified. Kutong and Kokosi are those areas, and I know that there are houses that have been relocated to alternative sites that have already been handed over to their new occupants. I know there is public infrastructure such as schools as well that we are relocating because we anticipate that area is a hotspot. So I just want to correct that. It's not that we can't trace them, we can't do geotech to know if that area is prone to these sinkholes, but we are then saying that because we can't say on this day this is going to cave in, or this part of this land that has been identified is going to cave in, we need to be prepared as the provincial government working with national and local government so that we are able to intervene should there be a need for disaster intervention in that area.
Yeah. Continue?
Yeah, but we're doing quite a lot in terms of public awareness campaigns in the area. Making sure that residents know what to do should the eventuality occur. We're working quite closely as well with the Department of Health to make sure that first aid training is provided to the community members themselves, and also the local infrastructure there is prepared for any cases of disaster.
Lastly then, Theo, that's after the fact. That's after the sinkhole has happened, has opened up and perhaps swallowed 1 or 2 houses. That's after your interventions, and I appreciate that. But as you and I speak right now, do you have a program that is looking at relocating people? Do you have land identified? Let me go step by step. Do you have land identified where those people who are directly in the path of these sinkholes can be relocated to?
So, for instance, in Kutong South, Extension 5 and 6, there were 753 units that were identified. And of those, I believe that 254 houses have already been moved, relocated. And I know that 200 people have already been allocated to those houses. That's just one of the examples, to show that there is actually some work being done on the ground to make sure that we don't just sit and fold our hands and wait for a disaster to happen. There are proactive government interventions in that area. But we re-emphasize the need for all spheres of government to be involved and not leave it to only one.
Theo, let's leave it there for this morning. That's Theo Nkonki. He's the spokesperson for the Gauteng Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC.
Owning a small or medium-sized business takes courage, skill, and determination. The Clientele Legal Business Plan is there to protect, guide, and assist your business in managing the legal risks. Let us handle your labor matters, employment contracts, CCMA referrals, and so much more. Our team of professional lawyers are standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 42770. That's SAFM to 42770. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Compliments for 2025, Mangani. Call me Mabel Goals because I'm coming for it all this year. Body, relationship, and financial goals. With my Just Invest account, financially I'm cruising cruising. 2 more to go. You know any available Prince Charming voice, man?
I've got you, Mabel. Sorry, Mara, you can also be like Mabel and earn up to 8.25% in interest to start the year right. Open yours via the Money app today. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply. Go to nedbank.co.za for more information.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So, choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense.
26 minutes after 7. South Africa's major banks will in February be summoned to Parliament to answer questions regarding their lending practices. The banks will appear before the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition. According to the committee, the banks will be required to explain their practices in extending loans, especially to struggling South Africans. Let's speak now to Mzwandile Masina, who is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So, this is described as a fact-finding hearing. What facts are you seeking to find? What are you inquiring into?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Indeed, I can confirm that we have actually invited the banks. We have not summoned them to appear before the Joint Committee or Standing Committee on Finance as well as TTIC. The intention there really is beyond what the other entities are doing, just to look at the compliance of the banks. This meeting is really a fact finding to see issues that affect consumers directly, including issues that are raising that what we have observed when we've met, and many South Africans have been calling to say, look, indeed, it is correct that we need to find out why it is easy to get consumption credit, but it's difficult, to find, production credit. One example, one of the CAs who reached out to me says, look, I wanted to buy a car, a private car worth X amount of money, and then when I wanted to buy a truck, they could give me a credit for the car, but they couldn't give me credit for the truck as an example. But it was meant, to enhance the business opportunity for this particular person. So we want to really understand from the institutions of banking what are the lending criteria, but over and above that, also just to understand the credit profile and how are the banks, working with other institutions to ensure that we can ensure that consumers are protected from being heavily, indebted to the financial institutions. So those are some of the issues that we'll be looking at.
In fact, Mr. Masina, you raise one of my questions that has to do with the extent to which banks and banking institutions remain diligent in terms of the credit profile before extending credit to consumers. So that you can confirm that's one of the areas into which you will be inquiring. Yes,
we'll be interested to see. For instance, one of the issues that have come up, for instance, in the lending, we are told, and this will have to be confirmed by the banks, that there is different credit application, based on some of the faith, some of the faith-based, clients. So we would like to understand that if other people don't pay certain interest, why other people are paying interest. So banks will have to really, be answering those questions. And I believe that after this first session, we'll make follow-ups, which will then have to be looking at the laws that will have to be adjusted to make sure that, there is consistency in terms of banking in South Africa. We're happy that the meeting of the 4th of February will be joined by the Reserve Bank, will be joined by the Banking Association of South Africa, we will be joined by the FSCA, and other entities to ensure that we just don't talk to the banks, but we also talk to the institutions that regulate the banking system in South Africa.
All right, we'll be watching it with keen interest. That is Mzwandile Masina. He's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition, concerned from at least the petitions and communication they've been receiving from ordinary South Africans that it is easier to secure credit for consumption than it is to secure credit for production. What do you think? Share your thoughts with me about the lending practices that you have observed. Of course, we will get more detailed information when the hearing happens, but your lived experience around this matter that the chairperson of the committee is raising, you can share those thoughts with me. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. Let's check in now with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, political analyst Sandile Swana has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to apply his mind when appointing ministers. This as pressure mounts on the president to take action against Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Ntshabeni. She's accused of corruption. The High Court in Bloemfontein in the Free State is today expected to deliver judgment in the case of former Premier Ace Magashule's former personal assistant. 37-year-old Muruadi Cholota is seeking to have her arrest declared unlawful and a fraud and corruption charges withdrawn. And the latest wildfire that flared up yesterday morning near the U.S. city of Los Angeles has grown in size. It's now estimated to be burning over an area of more than 9,000 acres near Lake Esteic, north of Santa Clarita. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Coming out of northern parts of Joburg, very heavy loads of traffic lights out all over four ways. That area is a very hot mess. You got lights out on Malabongwe from Kaya Sand to Stratham Park. That's heavy. And Bayers Nordia from Lifestyle through to Cresta. Big backlogs there as well. N3, Germiston up towards the Molafontaine Road via Galuli stays heavy. And plenty of action on the N1 South. A breakdown at New Road, a breakdown at Buccleuch. It's slow all the way from Brockfontein right through to Buccleuch interchange this morning. Durban's not too bad. There's a bit of a backlog though coming from Sibaya down towards Slunga. Looks like something's happened before you get to the Gateway exit. And Cape Town, some heavy pressure going in on the N1 this morning. Big backlogs from Belleville all the way through now to the city centre. There was a stationary truck at Yiptiaga. That's being cleared, but the N1 inbound pretty heavy. Marine drivers were bad this morning, backed up from Sunningdale all the way through to the first lights at Sunset Beach. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. So it was the Marco Jansen show as the Sunrisers took on the Capitals.
Oh, yeah. Marco Jansen turned Gqeberha into his playground.
Yeah.
After that spell, I think, is it safe to say the word fiery? Fiery spell.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, the home crowd there in Gqeberha as well, they brought the fire. So definitely it was, the Sunrisers for the win. It was unbelievable how the Sunrisers Eastern Cape stormed back into the SA20 contention with their third consecutive bonus point victory, this time crushing the Pretoria Capitals by 52 runs in Gqeberha. Captain Aidan Markram led the charge with an unbeaten 68 of 55 balls, supported by Marco Jansen and Liam Dawson, who chipped in with quick runs at the back end of the innings. Defending 149 for 7, Jansen was unstoppable with the ball, taking 4 for 13, while Dawson added 3 for 17 as the Capitals were bundled out for just 97. The win cements the Sunrisers in third place on the points table, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Let's hear from Marco Jansen.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it level because we lost our first 3 games and now winning 3 games on the bounce. We just try and stay as level as possible because we know any team can beat any team on the day. Just lucky for us, we managed to do that 3 times in a row.
More cricket. Captain Benny Hansen led from the front with an assured half-century as the South Africa under-19 men, they beat England in the decisive third and final Youth One-Day International Series at the Paul Roos Gymnasium in Stellenbosch. The result ensured Malibongwe Maketa's side completing an excellent 2-1 come-from-behind win after they lost the first game of the series last week. Now, the South Africa's under-19 women are through to the Super 6 stage of the ICC Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup following their resounding 41-run victory against Nigeria's under-19 women in their final group match encounter to ensure the top spot in Group C. Soccer, Mamelodi Sundowns claiming revenge over Magesi FC and opening a 6-point lead at the top of the Betway Premiership with a 2-1 win at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium last night. The teams will next be in Nedbank Cup action with Sundowns hosting Sibanya Golden Stars on Saturday, while Magesi will welcome SuperSport United on Tuesday. In the meantime, the Premier Soccer League announcing it has suspended all matches involving Royal AM until the KwaZulu-Natal club presents its case to the league. That's tomorrow. The club, which has been under curatorship by SARS, will meet the league's executive to make representations on the situation. Royal have not played a match since the league lost their 3-1 to TS Galaxy on the 29th of December. Their away game against Chippa United on the 11th of January was postponed after players and staff reportedly went on strike due to non-payment salaries. Royal suspended fixtures include their Nedbank Cup game against Milford FC, which was scheduled for Sunday at the Harry Gwala Stadium. Elsewhere, Arsenal all but sealed their spot in the Champions League last 16 with a 3-0 win over Dynamo Zagreb. Real Madrid had a 5-1 win to eliminate Red Bull Salzburg. Shakhtar Donetsk easing to a 2-0 win against Brest. And Manchester City, they slumped 4-2 against Paris Saint-Germain. Here's City boss Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, they were better. We have to accept it. So we have the last chance at home against Bruges. We will do everything there. And if it's not, it's because we don't deserve it. So we have away tough games, but of course the game against Inter, especially in Feyenoord, they put it in that position. But it's not about just that. We can qualify, but we have to, of course, after that, you have to recover players and do it better. So it's simple as that. So they were better, have to accept it. And sport is like that.
And that's how it is. We'll keep more sport for you at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, Ndauling, good morning to you once again. So it's the one of the big points of concern at the start of 2025, the mooted closure of one or two of ArcelorMittal's plants. Tell me about this meeting with ministers and ArcelorMittal's chairperson.
So it seems like government is pulling out all stops to keep these mills open. Thulasizwe steelmaking tycoon and executive chair of ArcelorMittal, which is AMSA's parent company, Lakshmi Mittal, recently met up with South African ministers in Davos to discuss the planned closure of those mills, which are crucial to the local economy. Now, Bloomberg article states the Treasury confirmed there was a meeting and it included Finance Minister Enoch Gorongwana, Trade Minister Park Stow, and Electricity Minister Hussein Toramuhopa. Now, ArcelorMittal South Africa announced plans to close these 3 plants, including 2 steel mills vital to the automaking, mining, and construction industries by the end of the month. And we're fast approaching the end of the month, so it seems like government is doing all it can. The firm pointed to ports and railway issues, soaring electricity prices, a low-growth economy, and state-imposed discounts on scrap metal as reasons for the closure. The company is requesting relief measures such as changes to scrap treatment and tariffs on imported steel. According to that article from Bloomberg, the meeting between Mittal and local ministers aimed to address the above issues, but no conclusion was reached.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like there needs to be a creative solution that is to be found there, because by all accounts, it's in no one's best interest for the closure of these mills. In retail news, Ndauling, tell me about Mr. Price and their increases in sales.
So the fashion retailer delivered a 10.6% increase in retail sales Mr. Price is also gaining a market share, and this for the 6th consecutive month. The company's apparel segment and acquired businesses saw double-digit growth with a 70 basis point gain in market share as well. Mr. Price Group's director cited an improving consumer environment driven by decreasing inflation and lower interest rates as key factors to the company's growth. Looking forward, the group anticipates an even better economic environment driven by those two factors, inflation and lower interest rates. However, the company remains cautious about external factors, including global economic uncertainties and the performance of South Africa's government of national unity. And that's why its rejection rate for credit remains high. In the trading update for the 3 months to end December, Mr. Price saw a record surge in credit application, but it's remaining cautious, continuing to reject the majority of those applications. Meanwhile, the retailer's overall performance was in line with the retail sector, which saw a 7.7% annual increase in sales in November.
All right, please give us another roundup of the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world.
Kicking things off in Asia, Thulas markets are trading higher, driven by China after multiple Chinese government departments rolled out medium and long-term investment plans with clear measures to boost capital market confidence. With that, the Shanghai index leading the pack up 1.1%, followed by the Japanese Nikkei up just over 0.9% this morning. And then in Wall Street, futures are in the red. Traders on that front eyeing company news as earnings season picks up pace. And then coming back home, sentiment quite subdued with the Thulasizwe closing in negative territory. This despite upbeat local economic data. The rand in the meantime remaining steady, sitting at 18.50 to the dollar.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She'll be back with one more report for you just after 8:30 and ahead of the resumption of trade on this Thursday on the JSE.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Say good morning to Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So let's start with this. This is concerning out of the Deputy Secretary General of the UN, and this has to do with Africa becoming a focal point of global terrorism. What's that about?
Timoni and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Thulas, when you look at the Deputy Secretary General briefing to the UN Security Council this week, Amina J. Mohammed, is to emphasize that the Sahel region, it is at risk, as she was outlining challenges that we are now seeing terrorism coming in different forms to us now, the sharing of finances, fighters, expertise, and also advancing technology that is coming with this counter-terrorism. The African Union also political affairs commissioner also stated what we are picking up in Algiers, that to us by 2024 we're sitting with 400 attacks that has resulted in more than 13,000 deaths. So you can see already to us that as we talk of the terrorism globally, we are seeing Africa also becoming a victim once more.
But the Sahel states are not taking it lying down. Tell me about these efforts by these 3 military-ruled countries in the Sahel to beef up their ability to respond militarily.
Remember, for them pulling out of ECOWAS, Thulas, Niger Defense Minister yesterday said that they are building up a 5,000 strong forces that will fight the jihadist violence that has placed, that has been terrorizing some of their borders. And as you know, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are now forming what they call a unified force that will deal with the jihadists, meaning they are no longer relying on ECOWAS. Neither they are relying in Paris, they are relying in Moscow as one of their new alliance on dealing with counter-terrorism in the Sahel region.
Yeah. So closer to home in the Southern African region, there were elections, as you reported extensively, in Namibia last year, Sipho, and the court challenges around those continue, but one court is saying, hang on, we can't hear your case until the Supreme Court has heard another case, a similar case.
Absolutely, and this comes from the electoral court judge yesterday, Hanley Prinsloo, and with other 2 judges who are the assessors in this presidential dispute case. That we must recall to us that we still have an electoral dispute that was lodged by the Independent Patriots for Change against the
presidential outcome in Namibia. Now, the issue that the judges are putting clearly to us is to say that we have same legal issues. Now, you can't give electoral court this burden when the Supreme Court will also be engaging on the serious question of now looking at legality. And remember, this is the same court that has to confirm the presidential outcome of these elections. Now, these matters have been put to us until the 10th of February, and that's how the presidential dispute in Namibia, it is still ongoing post-Mozambique.
Tell me about South Africa's efforts to lend support to South Sudan. I always like you get an acronym, RARCSS, Revitalized Agreement on the Resolution of Conflict in South Sudan. We are lending a helping hand there, are we not?
Absolutely, Thulas. But in the name that we have mentioned, that's where you are finding that our ambassador in the South Sudan, Advocate Mufe, is today donating a vehicle to the National Electoral Commission of the South Sudan as part of the support. Remember, even recently, Ronald Lamola has been tasked by the AU to be part of that mediation team that have to pave the way for the South Sudan to undergo the elections towards the end of the year. So this morning, you'll be handing over to the government of South Sudan, particularly the Electoral Commission. Despite that, we still have challenges in Sudan, whether it's Western Darfur, whether it's some parts of the Nuba Mountains. But the question is this revitalized peace that was signed in Addis Ababa in 2018 between Riek Machar as well as Salva Kiir. So it is important for South Africa. It has been has been supporting the South Sudan since 2010, and that's how we should always be out there to assist the people of South Sudan.
So take me to your historical archives, Sipho. I mean, it seems the 23rd of January has been something that, is a grim anniversary, at least as far as the South African music and particularly jazz scene is concerned.
Absolutely. I thought of that these three cultural ambassadors, we should remember them on this day, but with different years to us. That today we will remember the passing of Ntate Hugh Ramapolo Masekela, who passed away in 2018 on the 23rd of this month to us. And we know Bra Hugh's contribution in the liberation struggle of this country at the age of 78. I jumped to Zimbabwe, Oliver Tuku, 2019, just after Bra Hugh at the age of 66. Also a goodwill ambassador for the SADC region. And when we close Musa, Jonas Gwangwa also 2 years later after Oliver, and 3 years later after Bra Hugh, we see Jonas Gwangwa being the eldest out of them to at the age of 83. And we know his role in the Amandla Ensemble and working with the late Oliver Tambo. So you can see the three, what I call cultural ambassadors of the African continent, that we need more of this artist and more of these ambassadors in bringing peace and unity in the African continent. Asante sana Thulas as facilitating the conversation. SFM observing the Education Month.
All right, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update here on the Morning Brief.
Assurance, they understand my business. They are so good in terms of communication, which gives me confidence. It's a good decision that I've made to move to Assurance. I'm a winner. I want to be with the winners.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
With Ford's Blue Sky offers, get a new Ranger XL from just $5,899 per month, including our optional service plan. 10% deposit, prime list 4.75%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Your best year starts at Dis-Chem with unbeatable deals for the whole family. Save R29.98 when you buy 2 packs of Softy 18 toilet rolls for just R200. Get 20% off all Sunlab products. Save R79.98 when you buy 2 Sanex shower gels or kids foam baths for only R100. Shop in-store and online for the lowest prices on the widest range of products. Now on until 16 February. Dis-Chem Pharmacies. Better health starts here.
SAFM.
guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still all the way through Midrand this morning. It's a busy one if you're leaving Pretoria. Delays really between Brockfontein and Buccleuch to change. Durban inbound from the airport. There's the breakdown before you get to Gateway. So from Sabaya, that's all quite heavily backed up. A lot of traffic around Queensborough this morning, up to North Dean, the main road, heading north in towards the M7. Quite an unusual backlog there. Cape Town highways are busy. The M2 inbound from Robert Sobukwe to Hospital Bend. The N1 from Plattekloof Hill all the way through to the elevated freeway. And no traffic lights on the N7, Jakes Kerville Drive at the N2 bridge. And that's causing quite a big backlog coming up passing Vangate Mall. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Natal Rich Boys want to demonstrate their wealth with a win to reach the last 16. But the Buccaneers say they will illustrate why they are the reigning champions. This is the Nedbank Cup round of 32. British Bay FC battles it out with Orlando Pirates FC this Sunday, 26 January at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
9 minutes to 8. It's good to be in your company this morning. Experts are warning consumers to be aware of new scamming trends that are currently happening in the country. These scams range from job scams, investment scams, and student loan scams. According to fraud experts, these scams are becoming more sophisticated and require consumers to be more cautious. Let's welcome Atali Khan, who is the head of fraud risk management at Standard Bank, to take this conversation forward. Good morning to you, Atali, and thank you for your time this morning. Why is the start of the new year a particularly vulnerable time for people to fall victims to scams?
Good morning, Tula, and thank you for having me. Consumers are facing heightened vulnerability at this time of the year. The reason for this is because everyone, or most people at this time of the year, are currently planning for the new year. They're planning it, they've got a whole lot of resolutions, a lot of changes they'd like to make within their own personal lives and spaces. And they're essentially looking for opportunities to try to make all of these a reality. So what happens with this is that scammers exploit these opportunities to look at customers and try to offer them all of these special packages so that they can try to reach their goals. And this makes our clients, the vulnerability far more heightened at the beginning of the year.
And so from that, we are able to glean that there are certain quite common scams. What are some of those that plug into, we have a new resolve at the start of the new year and various objectives? What are some of the common scams?
So one of the common scams we're finding is investment scams, the promise of high returns, where these unsolicited investments offering you high promises of high returns with little risk. And this tends to, the scammers tend to prey on people with renewed financial resolutions. And what they do is they try to create urgency around this to create their financial stability. So this gives them the opportunity to scam customers by forcing them into taking up, certain products, etc., to create that financial stability. There's also job scams, where they're looking at exploiting career ambitions, where customers have, most of our clients have either finished university or would like to do a change in their lives with regards to, a new job opportunity. They're looking at students, where they look at student loans, preying on the financial needs of our young, up-and-coming, clients. And then also medical products, the ones that are too good to be true. Scammers often exploit, customers' New Year health and fitness resolutions that promote medical weight loss products and supplements. These products are advertised with fake celebrity endorsements and fabricated testimonials. I think, those are the top four that we kind of finding.
And from that work as well, we are able to talk about the common tactics that are used by scamsters. And one key one that I think I almost fell victim to actually a few months ago is that time-pressured, time-sensitive offer that says, here's this offer. If you don't take it now, it's over, done.
Yeah.
Is that one of the common tactics?
Definitely. So what they do, Tula, is and these fraudsters, they're known for this. They try to create chaos, and by creating chaos, they then try to bring in a level of, you can trust me, I'm going to help you and talk you through this, either by talking you through to downloading a new app or taking you through to a new website and making sure that you get this right now. They create that urgency to create chaos. And that urgency is, you have to do it now. You have to take up this awesome offer because it's going to, kind of expire very soon.
Sure. All right. Talk to me about then how we can protect ourselves. What are some of the key little tweaks to our behavior and responses to some of these offers that we can adopt that would stand us in good stead?
Absolutely. Yes, some key tips to protect yourself against scams, from a customer perspective. One of them is always verify your links. Don't click on a link. I think one of the things, or one of the, the advice that we give our customers is always type the URL directly into your browser. Use strong passwords. They must be unique. They must be complex for every account. Don't use the same password for every single application you have. It's one of the biggest mistakes we make as consumers. Two-factor authentication is so important. And also make sure that when you use Wi-Fi, make sure that it's a secure Wi-Fi. Avoid using public Wi-Fi. I know it's easy, and most consumers, look for these opportunities, but try to avoid it when you either doing purchases or you're banking. I think also financial awareness is absolutely important. Monitor your accounts. Always check. For us, I think it's very important to make sure that you have the alerts come up or pop up to show you that either a transaction has gone off your account so that you can make informed decisions. So always make sure that your notifications are on. Yeah. Be skeptical of deals. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. And most of the time we find that 9 out of 10 that the deals are absolutely too good to be true and they're sold.
Yeah,
don't share your personal information. I think that's one of the biggest ones. We'll never ask you for your personal information.
Thank you for that. Atali Khan is the head of fraud risk management at Standard Bank. Once again, she reiterates that age-old wisdom. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take one or two of your calls this morning. Let me speak to Dr. Mukwena. Good morning to you, Doctor. Is it Doctor the title or Doctor as in dog, Takumal?
By the qualification, I'm Dr. Lucas Mukwena.
Good to talk to you this morning. You want to talk to me about the sinkholes in Carltonville?
Yes. I am born and raised in Carltonville, Kokuzo.
Yeah.
And I'm so surprised by our leaders when they speak and they give shallow answers. That is not even scientific. That is not even leading us anywhere in Carltonville, particularly in Kuzo. In 1984, that's when I started to experience the sinkhole in an area called Takalatunya. And then that is an area that is close to a school called Titibuha. But of importance, it going up recently. There's an area closer to Lutheran Church and the old tax rank where people's house were just, even the main road went down. But I went home and I saw them refilling it with just sand and stones. But now I'm asking myself, where are the geologists? Where are the engineers? You can't say you don't know what will happen. You're training people for first aid. What will first aid do? I'm a medical doctor, and I don't want to treat people who are already with fractures and everything. I want to prevent. Yeah. You can't even teach community what is a CPR, including himself. What is first aid?
Sure.
The one who was talking, he's speaking things that don't have value. You are just answering for the sake of you're in the media. Speak sense like an educated person, like somebody who's in the leader, and you've done a research. You just called somebody from the Standard Bank. Risk management. What are the risk issues that they have identified? You can't even build a double-story school and say you don't know that you are in a sinkhole.
So, Doc, just from your understanding of the area, because you are from there, to what extent is this problem caused by the levels of mining activity that has occurred there? And perhaps what I'm asking is, should we not also be insisting, because as you say, from 1984, we've had decades to come up with policy interventions. Should that not have included that the mining houses should have had a role to play in this?
That was the second. The first important thing is, after identify the entire Kuzong is not a safe place to be. That's number one. It does not matter what area are you, or being the old or the new. The mine was supposed to contribute on the community development, to say, since we have damaged the land, we have damaged the environment, and it's not habitable. So we need to move our people to a safe area. It must not be Kuzong. Forget about Kuzong. It's a dead area. You cannot even develop any business there. You cannot even develop any infrastructure. You cannot even take our kids to school.
Yeah. Dr. Mokwe.
So they need to move everyone to a safer area where it's geologically, industrial, and then in general identified. Not just because of the tender.
Yeah.
It must get out of their mind.
Gotcha. Dr. Mukwena in Bloemfontein, thank you for that. And that brings us to 8 a.m. And Musa standing by with your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, analysts weigh in on Chabeni corruption allegations and judgment expected in Cholota's court bid to have charges dropped. Good morning. Political analyst Sandile Swana has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to apply his mind when appointing ministers. This as pressure mounts on the president to take action against Minister in the presidency Kumbutso Chabeni. She's accused of corruption after allegedly benefiting from a 2.5 million rand tender while the manager in the Bapalaborwa local municipality. Swana says Ramaphosa should not appoint ministers who are implicated in corruption.
Ramaphosa should refrain from appointing people who have known skeletons in the carpet, because since I think a very long time, Chabeni was a CEO of the municipality, municipal manager. This has been known that he is involved in such things. But Ramaphosa went ahead and appointed him with total disregard for professional ethics, revolutionary morality.
Another political analyst, Dr. Levi Ndo, says the allegations against Chabeni should be taken seriously.
The allegations against Minister Chabeni cannot just be taken lightly. Any matter that is corrupt related, and especially on high-ranking politicians, are matters that requires urgent attention.
The High Court in Bloemfontein in the Free State is today expected to deliver judgment in the case of former Premier Ace Magashule's former personal assistant. 37-year-old Murwadi Chilota is seeking to have her arrest declared unlawful and a fraud and corruption charges withdrawn. The charges against her relate to the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal contract scandal. Chilota was extradited from the US in August last year. She is out on bail of 2,500 rand. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge will this morning continue the cross-examination of the complainant. Andiswa Mengo, a judge's secretary, accuses Mbenenge of sexual harassment. Yesterday, Mbenenge's counsel grilled Mengo on her evidence that she received sexually explicit images from the top judge.
Evidence will be laid that actually this picture you claim was sent from you can never be found by experts on the phone of the respondent. Do you have any comment?
Okay,
I will say okay, I've got nothing further than that.
It is false that in this time we're talking about, or any time at all, you were sent K8 or any image of private parts or a private part.
Yeah, piggies.
I am disputing what you're saying.
And finally, the latest wildfire that flared up yesterday morning near the U.S. city of Los Angeles has grown in size. It's now estimated to be burning over an area of more than 9,000 acres near Lake Estake, north of Santa Clarita. More than 30,000 people have been ordered to evacuate, and thousands of others have been given evacuation warnings. The BBC's Peter Bowes has the details.
Firefighters have had a difficult fight on their hand, but the optimistic note that was sounded was that they believe they are getting the upper hand, and the signs are that within the next 24 hours they may make some significant progress in bringing this huge and certainly quickly moving fire under control. But the slightly worrying news from the press conference was that they expect the red flag warning situation to be extended into the early hours of Friday.
Recapping the top story, political analyst Sandile Swana has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to apply his mind when appointing ministers. This as pressure mounts on the president to take action against Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This January, to save money, you could cut back on the milk in your cereal, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash, and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Another broken down vehicle on the N3 north at Modderfontein Road this morning. So coming up through the Edenvale area via Galulis from Germiston remains fairly heavily back from about the cement factory territory. Winnie Mandela turning into Parkmore onto Santon Drive. That's heavy, big queues coming in from Bryanston. And the N1 south this morning, a breakdown at Beclue Interchange. It's really slow. If you're just coming out of Pretoria, there's a whole pile of traffic between Old Joburg Road and Beclue Interchange. Durban stationary truck before Gateway. That's on the N2 southbound. So from the airport, quite a heavy backlog as you come down through Sabaya. Looks like motorists are avoiding that and jamming up the M4, the Ruth First Highway into Umhlanga as well. Cape Town, no traffic lights. N7, N2 bridge. The run-up from Vangate Mall is heavy and plenty of traffic on the N1. Looks like it's going to take a while for this to clear through today. Traffic backed up from Plattercliff Road right through to the elevated freeway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAFM Sports headline. It is rugby. The Lions hungry for their first URC home win over the Bulls. And in cricket action, Marco Jansen dazzles as the Sunrisers crush the Capitals in Gqeberha. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, folks. We are into the third hour of the morning brief on this Thursday. It's good to be in your company this morning. So a number of conversations that are on the go this morning already. We've been talking a bit about this app, this e-hailing app, the new e-hailing app called Vanatu, which is a play on the Afrikaans expression Varnatu, which means where to. And we're talking about it because it's caused a fair amount of debate because one of the requirements for people to be drivers for that app is that they should be speakers of Afrikaans, proficient in Afrikaans. But let me be quick to add, the business's owners insist that while speaking Afrikaans competently is a prerequisite for the drivers to be employed on the platform, anyone, even if you don't speak Afrikaans and let alone speak it proficiently, anyone can use the service because the app has an English translation button, and also they don't require that the drivers should be first language, Afrikaans speakers. So we've been asking the question, whether this should even be a talking point at all among South Africans, the existence of this app that requires drivers to speak Afrikaans, and also putting that in the context that Afrikaans, not only is it one of the 12 official languages of the country, it's also the third most spoken language in the country, spoken by some 10.6% of the population, many of whom, the majority of whom, are not white South Africans. So should we be learning something about how to preserve languages that are sort of on the decline? Because, you know, that's the reality of Afrikaans and many indigenous South African languages. Are there lessons to be learned about trying to infuse this language in everyday transactions? Weigh in on that. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. We've also been talking a bit about the lending practices of banks. Mzwandile Masina, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition, is asking the banks to come and have a conversation. He says he's not summoning them, he's inviting them to come and have a conversation with MPs about their lending practices. The concern seems to be that it's easier to get credit for consumption than it is to get credit for production. So weigh in on that as well. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, as well as the conversation we've been having around the sinkholes in areas like Gauteng. Do we wait until disaster has struck when actually all along it could have been easy and possible to intervene and avert disasters such as that is looming in that area of Gauteng around the issue of sinkholes? Those and other issues, weigh them and put them on the table for me this morning. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So, choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
This January, to save money, you could carpool with your not-so-friendly neighbor, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take some of your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes this morning. Let's speak to Amos out in Hazyview. Good morning to you, Amos. You want to talk to me about the lending practices of the banks?
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, sure. I think it's a great move that government is starting to take an action against the banks. It becomes difficult for your business to get an overdraft facility in order to do business, but rather they will push you to a revolving credit loan. You understand?
Yeah.
If my business does not qualify for an overdraft of 130,000, for example, how does it qualify for a revolving credit loan of 300,000? Surely it doesn't make sense. So at some point, it looks like if you need facilities that will have less or low interest for your business, at some point banks do not understand that. So I think it's a great move. Thumbs up for government to do that.
All right, thank you for that. That's Amos in Hazelview. Just that subtle difference between the various lending products that he says are available for businesses and how, at least in his perception, you tend to be pushed towards one product versus other products. Let me speak to Nkwanano in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Nkwanano. Talk to me about the e-hailing service that we've been reporting about this morning.
Yeah, no, man. I just heard now on the news that certain drivers, they need to be able to speak Afrikaans. But I mean, the fact that is most people who do e-hailing service are foreigners. Yeah, so if they can't speak a normal African language, how would they know how to speak Afrikaans? I mean, but even me as a South African, I still don't know how to speak Afrikaans. Yeah, so.
I hear you, Nkwanano, but let me put something to you. Isn't there a niche market? You know our elderly people that don't converse and don't, deal with the world in English on a daily basis. Maybe, in my case, the original language is Siswati. Isn't there a niche market there to say, actually, if you are someone who's more comfortable and want to be in a ride where you're having conversations, and in case you run into problems, you should be able to speak to someone in Siswati, isiZulu, isiXhosa, etc. Isn't there a niche market for people who don't necessarily want to navigate the world in English?
No, there is, but I don't think there is for African-speaking people because I've been on Uber for over 5 years and I haven't bumped into one single e-hailing white driver. So I don't know if they're going to start hiring them now.
All right.
My view.
All right. Thank you for that, Nkwanano. That's Nkwanano in Cape Town. Not forgetting, of course, that as we've been pointing out, the owners of the business say that you don't need to be a white Afrikaner person to be a driver. Afrikaans is spoken by the majority of people who speak Afrikaans basically are not white South Africans. Let's speak to Trevor out in Randburg. Good morning to you, Trevor. You want to talk to me about banking?
Yes, I do. Offhand, I've worked at 3 separate banks in South Africa, just the biggest ones. So if you, Thula, decide that you want to get yourself a personal loan, you can go on your phone and you could literally have a personal loan by 8:30. The money will be in your account up to a value of 300,000 rand.
Sure.
Very easy thing to do. If you want a home loan, that might take you north of a week, depending on what's happening with your profile, your credit health, your income profile, etc., etc. What I'm highlighting there is that the statement is correct. It is accurate that when you want to borrow money to acquire actual assets and to actually grow your wealth, there is a degree of I suppose cooperation. I'm not sure what word I want to use. And look, I mean, the banks they've treated me well. I've worked at 3 of them. It pays well. You have brilliant benefits. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I'm just highlighting anecdotally what I've seen. And there's with the personal loans being pushed, like your other caller said, they'd rather give him a revolving loan than give him an overdraft facility against his checking account for his business. And for me, as someone who has sat on the inside, it starts to feel like the majority of borrowers, which would be black borrowers, are treated as sort of fodder for creating billions in cash flow and revenue generation. I'm hoping that when they call them up to that inquiry, they'll actually speak about the racial sort of disparities in how lending takes place.
Trevor,
one more thing, if I may. You see how personal loans are pumped. You turn around, you're being sold a personal loan. They're calling you on the phone for a personal loan. There are billboards for personal loans. They're popping up on your phone, in your app, etc., etc. Now, when you ascend in income and you get into the rarefied income spaces, i.e. R1 million or more, 1.5 million rand or more, 2 million rand or more, if you show up there with your personal profile, your lending profile, your balance sheet, and there's a personal loan on it, some banks won't even take you on as a client in the higher spaces because that kind of thing is frowned upon. Now it begs the question, who must have a personal loan and who must be sold one and who mustn't? What's the difference between the two profiles?
All right, Trevor, let's leave it there for this morning. In fact, Trevor, my suggestion to you would be do one better Why don't you write to the committee chairperson Mzwandile Masina ahead of that? He says it's on the 4th of February, that meeting and interaction with the banks. I think they would benefit from some of the insights that you have shared with us this morning. I would strongly encourage that you write to the committee chairperson. Ralph in KwaZulu-Natal, also on the same issue of banks. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. Well, mine is just to say this is most welcome, this meeting. But we would also want to see what transpires thereafter.
Yeah.
Taking from history, there was once a revelation that Africans were charged higher interest when they were borrowing. And that just ended up like that. We never came to know what happened with that investigation.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So now that they've deemed it fit to make it public that they are meeting these banks, they must also report back to the public as to what is.
Yeah. So the follow-through must be reported back. That's equally important. Thank you for that. That's Ralph in KZN. Let me take one or two of your voice notes now.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Great show as always, man. We are talking to Andres Sibanyo here in Johannesburg. Yeah, I really want to comment on Masina's inviting the banks to Parliament. Yeah, really, I think there's a serious concern there. My major one is that banks have got this thing of what they can give you a car worth 1 million rand, and you pay that car over a period of 5 years. But when it comes to a house, same value, you must pay for 20 years. May you please try, I don't know how, to address these discrepancies. I don't know. This is so silly for me. Thanks.
Good morning, Simelane and the team. I think on the issue of Vanuatu, I don't think it's racist or it should cause any stir. It's an app, it's a business app. If anyone doesn't want to use it, they cannot use it. They can use Uber or Bolt. But I think for me it's a brilliant idea because it's South African based and it's time for us to invent things in our own space. So yeah, that's my view. Thank you, Thulasizwe. Stan.
Yeah, Stan, thank you for that. And part of the context, as I've been saying, is the decline in the use of some of these languages, some of our indigenous languages. I don't know who it was that I saw that said they are worried that in 10 years' time, there'll be a family meeting, Black Africans, South Africans, a family meeting, and everyone at that family meeting won't know how to speak in Xhosa, and the entire family meeting will be conducted in English. I laugh, but it's actually not funny. So you sort of take that into the context that says, if you can intervene to try and promote the use of language in commercial activity in daily transactions, and I keep emphasizing, without discriminating against other South Africans, why not? Go for it.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Should we be concerned? What's happened?
We should really be concerned because Tiger is on the loose and he is a dangerous fugitive. He has been fingered for being the mastermind for the alleged deaths of some of the people, the illegal miners underground. He's been fingered for the assault and torture, as well as hoarding and keeping food away from other illegal miners. So it's important that we get to him, dead or alive. We need Tiger back.
Brigadier Atlanta Mate, the national spokesperson for the SAPS.
Missed it? Don't worry. We've got you covered. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
If it's your resolution to make better financial decisions, get Outsurance Essential, low-cost insurance for your older car. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top it up with motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
24 minutes after 8, technology experts are warning internet users to not be too reliant on artificial intelligence. The experts say while artificial intelligence, large language models like ChatGPT have revolutionized the speed and accessibility of information, they can sometimes contain fabricated or inaccurate information, a phenomenon known as AI hallucination. Let's speak to Arthur Goldstock, who is a tech expert and founder of Worldwide Works and Gadget Magazine. Good morning to you, Arthur, and thank you for your time this morning. So tell me a bit more about AI hallucinations. I initially thought that this was just initial hiccups with the AI technology and it would improve. Is it improving?
Morning, Thulasizwe. The reality is that it's actually almost a feature of AI, large language models. In my book, more than a year ago, in Hitchhiker's Guide to AI, I warned that large language models are language models, they're not fact models, and that's really the difference, is they're not designed to come up with correct facts. They're purely designed to generate the right sequence of words. So if you want to write an email better, or you want to do a proposal better, or you want to analyze a document that you have, it's fantastic for that. And you can rely on it, but as long as you double check that all the facts are still straight in what you produce. Where you cannot rely on it is if you want any facts or information that has, let's say, specs of a car or a gadget.
What causes these AI hallucinations? Is it the inputs that inform that technology, a technology such as ChatGPT?
The reason is that a large language model, which all these generative AI tools use, is really accumulating as much text as they can get off the internet. They either scrape it off the internet or they go into big volumes of language or of words. And then when you put in a prompt, it tries to match your prompt, your request. It tries to match it to words that it has in its database. And those words aren't necessarily correct, or they don't necessarily reflect reality. They simply reflect what would be the best words to follow each other. So the result is that it hallucinates. And as I say, it's almost a feature of AI. It's not a glitch in AI. So people have to know that any fact that's produced by AI has to be double-checked. I'll give you a very good example. I asked ChatGPT the other day about a new Star Trek movie that's going out on American TV on Friday, and it's being launched by Paramount in America, which doesn't exist in South Africa. So I asked it, are we going to see this movie in South Africa? And he said, yes. Paramount has a deal with Showmax, so when it goes live in America on Friday, it'll go live on Showmax on Friday. So I thought, let me check with Showmax, and I contacted them, and they said, no, unfortunately at the moment there's no plans yet. It's likely to come on, but they can't say when. So it just invented that piece of information from what it was able to put together from the words it had in its database. It's a very innocent example, but you can imagine if people depend on the information it produces, they could get into a lot of trouble.
I imagine then Arthur, that part of the word of caution is for people who are tempted to use AI professionally, academically, not just to enhance the presentation of their work, but perhaps to use it as a basis for some of their submissions and the work that they do.
Then you're looking for trouble, and we've already had some legal cases where lawyers who should know far better were actually using AI to produce their arguments, and AI is known to make up case law or precedents or reference previous cases that don't exist. It was one of the first flaws that they found in large language models, and you still find lawyers doing that. So it shows you that professional people aren't necessarily intelligent people.
But we're not saying, Arthur, that there's absolutely no room for enhancement of the work that we do through the use of AI. How do we use it smartly such that, we stay on the right side of the ethics of it, and are not, embarrassed by some of these hallucinations, but actually reap the benefits of being able to, pull it all nicely together?
There's no question about it. It's a massively beneficial tool. It saves me a massive amount of time in structuring documents. For example, we do a lot of market research, and we get a spreadsheet of all the responses we've had from all the people we've interviewed, and we ask AI to analyze the spreadsheet. It produces fantastic graphs and a brief analysis of every graph. We can then take that analysis and start adding our strategic knowledge to it. That is half the time that it's taken us to do an analysis of a research project. And that's just one example. There are many examples. As long as you're not depending on it to do the actual base work. So you can't actually ask it to do the research or produce the research, but you can ask it to take what you've done and turn that into something far better. And it really does make us better at what we do. So my message to people always in terms of the impact on jobs is that it's going to make you better at your job if you use it effectively. But if you try to avoid it, then other people who are going to be better at their jobs might just replace you.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Arthur Goldstock, who is a tech expert and the founder of Worldwide Works and Gadget Magazine. At 8:30, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines. The Correctional Services Department says the majority of prisoners sentenced for involvement in illegal mining activities are foreign nationals from SADC countries. This comes amid concerns that the number of foreign prisoners in correctional services facilities has increased, putting a strain on the country's prisons. Political analyst Sandile Swana has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to apply his mind when appointing ministers. This as pressure mounts on the president to take action against Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Ntshabeni. She's accused of corruption. And the International Criminal Court has demanded an explanation after the head of Libya's judicial police was unexpectedly freed from jail in Italy. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still with a couple of breakdowns, one on Joburg Gentry North at Modderfontein Road, so the run up through Galilees from Bedford you stays busy as it has been all morning, and the N1 really busy. If you're just coming out of Pretoria, part of the After 8 gang as we call them, on your way to Joburg, just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. There's a lot of traffic this morning between Samran and the breakdown down at Buccleuch Interchange. Coming in from Durban's King Shaka International, both the highway routes are under pressure. Breakdown before Gateway on the N2 South causing a big backlog through Sibaya, and if you're trying to avoid that, there's a crash at Sibaya on the M4 causing some additional delays on that run through as well. I just noticed Durban's rainfall in the last 24 hours has been in excess of its monthly average for January. So it puts it into perspective. A lot of flooding, a lot of surface water, a lot of mudslides. Umkomaas, Scotborough, Durban, Bluff foreshore area as well. So just take it easy around the greater Durban area with those conditions. Although the rain has stopped, there is an aftermath of the heavy stuff from last night. Cape Town pretty heavy into the city centre on the N1. Delays from Plattekloof right through to the elevated freeway. Busy enough to be pushing Nelson Mandela Boulevard inbound back through Searle Street and pushing Marine Drive queues onto the M1 deep back into Parton Island. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So let me get this straight, Zai. The Lions have never mauled the Bulls at Emirates Park Airlines. Emirates Airlines Park.
I was about to
that
say
has never happened.
Excellent choice of vocabulary. The Lions have not mauled the Bulls.
And they are seeking to correct that.
Yeah.
Yeah?
They want to go less talking and more tackling. I don't know. That's right. That's how it's going to be. It's not just rugby. It's going to be bragging rights for who's king of the Yukske. Rugby fans are looking forward to this one. The Lions taking on the Bulls in this much anticipated United Rugby Championship derby at Ellis Park. The Lions sitting 12th on the table after 3 consecutive losses, desperate to claw their way back to form. They'll also be looking to correct a poor record against the Bulls, having never beaten them at home in the URC. The Lions' next 5 games are all against South African franchises, adding even more fire to the rivalry. Kickoff is at 2:45. That's in the afternoon. More rugby. Blue Daisies executive for strategic projects, Thando Manana, says the team has a backup plan for a place for national team players, seeing that 2025 is a World Cup year. The Springbok women are usually made up of a majority of Daisies players, and therefore a strategic plan is needed for possible replacements. The Daisies have restructured their technical team, introducing a forwards coach in Bongiwe Ntleku, who is set to help defend the Women's Premier Division title for a 3rd time in a row. Manana says Ntleku is a perfect fit.
It's a matter of having someone who wants to be part of it and saying, listen, just come and see if you fit in the system. And she fits perfectly. If she's not with the Daisies, she's with the juniors. So that's someone that really wants to take herself and her coaching ability to another level. She's not there just to be there. She's there to also just learn what the men's are doing, what the men game is about, and instill that. I think she's the best motivator within the group. And I've given her a big role. She's a forwards coach. And she's not assisting someone who's leading the forwards. She's our coach. She's a forwards coach, and that's where the game should go, is that women should be coaching women's team, and that's what I want. I want women to coach, and I want them to be competent enough and to bring the results, and then, at the end, they enjoy all the fruits of their hard work. So they know what they expected of them as the coaches. They're not here short term, they're here long term, because we believe that that women's space, in fact, should be taken by both ends, by the woman to lead.
That's the Blue Daisies executive for strategic projects, Thando Manana, on the morning brief. Cricket, the Sunrisers Eastern Cape have stormed back into the SA20 contention with their 3rd consecutive bonus point victory, this time crushing the Pretoria Capitals by 52 runs in Gqeberha. Captain Adrian Markram led the charge with an unbeaten 68 of 55 balls, supported by Marco Jansen and Liam Dawson, who chipped in with quick runs at the back end of the innings. Defending 149 for 7, Jansen was unstoppable with the ball, taking 4 for 13. Let's hear from Marco Jansen.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it level because we lost our first 3 games and now winning 3 games on the bounce. We just try and stay as level as possible because we know any team can beat any team on the day. Just lucky for us, we managed to do that 3 times in a row.
And finally, tennis action. The defending champion, that's Yannick Sinner, dismissed concerns about his physical state to thrash the home hope Alex de Minaur and reach the Australian Open semi-finals. Sinner struggled with illness in his previous match, but looked sharp in a 6-3, 6-2, 6-1 victory over the 8-seed de Minaur.
Yeah, I felt like, today was a very great match from my side. I served very well, breaking quite early in each set was very important for me and for my game. So yeah, for sure was the best match of the tournament so far, and so let's see.
And that's where we leave sport. We'll serve you more at around 12:30 with John Hediker. I'm Zaikan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again. In Dowling, I do not like this. I do not like it one bit. What's the story about inflation ticking higher now?
So inflation ticking higher is up 3% in December, up from 2.9% in November. but still below the expected 3.2%. Now, despite the increase, Thulas was still in safe territory as the inflation rate remains at the bottom of the Reserve Bank's 3 to 6% target range, which then reinforces expectations of a 25 basis point interest rate cut at the Reserve Bank's monetary policy meeting next week. Now, the mild upward pressure in December was driven by persistent pressures from housing and food costs. The annual inflation rate for housing and utilities was 4.4%, contributing 1 percentage point to the overall headline number. Food and non-alcoholic beverages, the inflation stood at 2.5%, contributing half of a percentage point to the CPI. Now, core inflation fell further from 3.7% to 3.6% in December. According to Investec's chief economist, Annabel Bishop, inflation rate is likely to remain below the midpoint of the inflation target for most part of the year. Bishop says the Reserve Bank's decision will be influenced by the recent recovery in the rand, which has helped to reduce inflationary pressures. Overall, economists say that the inflation rate remains under control and the Reserve Bank is expected to continue its monetary easing cycle to support economic growth. They have, however, warned that the governor will continue to take a cautious approach due to global risks.
Yeah, an indicator that's going in the right direction, retail sales. Tell me about them hitting their highest and best levels in 14 years.
That's right. It's in the greater scheme of things, you'd think it's a small number, but when you realize it's the highest it's been in 14 years, it just highlights the kind of pressure the local consumer has been under. Sales there jumped 7.7% on a year-on-year basis in November, beating market expectations and, of course, marking the strongest growth in about 14 years. According to Stats SA, the growth in retail sales was led by general dealers, which recorded an 11.9% increase. Textiles, clothing, footwear, and leather goods also reported a significant increase, up 9.5%. Now, the strong retail sales performance was attributed to the two-part payouts, Black Friday sales, interest rate relief from the Reserve Bank, low inflation, and slowing retail price increases. Economists believe that the growth in retail sales will have a positive impact on fourth quarter GDP figures. Now, the only subsector to record a decline in November was hardware, paint, and truss, where sales fell 4.3%, just highlighting that maybe we're not seeing much uptick within that construction sector, the building sector. On a monthly basis, retail sales inched 0.8% higher in November. Interestingly, the strong retail sales growth came despite a slight dip in consumer confidence in the fourth quarter of 2024. Economists, though, remain positive about the outlook for consumers, which is expected to, of course, be supported by low inflation and further interest rate relief.
Right. Lastly, Ndauling, give us a sense of what kind of a trading day we can look forward to in the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world.
Could be in for another day of mixed trade. We could see some positivity, though, filtering through following improving trade on the global front. In terms of company news, updates from Super Group and Sasol. Traders will be waking up to that. And then over in the currency scene, the rand remaining stable, not much activity playing out there. It's sitting at similar levels it was sitting at in the last hour at 18.51 to the greenback. And then looking at U.S. Futures, pretty flat as traders await more corporate earnings. Lastly, over in Asia, markets on track to end the day in positive territory, with the exception of the Japanese Nikkei, which is trending lower, down just over 0.33%.
That's Ndauling Lechela. She's kept you updated on the state of the economy, business, and the markets over the last 3 hours here on The Morning Brief.
I feel great. I feel nice.
Kasha, what's the goal? We're quelling on the highest, the summer level. What are we? Skim Sam, what's the qua? How you go make his squat for Lieto? That far of that Nandi summer content. Charlie says the girl must vuma. It's the call on SABC Plus. Don't miss Skim Sam at 7:30 weekdays only on SABC 1. Zanzi for sure.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing. Anything can go wrong.
The reason I chose OUTsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for Best Business Insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business OUTsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
17 minutes to 9. Let's turn to this now. The Automobile Association, the AA, says government needs to introduce more impactful solutions to reduce road fatalities. Recent statistics show that there were over 1,500 road fatalities during the 2024-2025 festive season, and that's a 5.3% increase from the previous year. The AA says deteriorating infrastructure and unroadworthy vehicles continue to be risks to pedestrians and drivers alike. Let's speak to Bobby Ramachwedi, who is the CEO of the Automobile Association. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So tell me about these impactful mobility solutions. What are they that you believe should be introduced that would help in turning this situation around?
Morning to Thulasizwe and listeners. So the impactful solutions that we're alluding to are three-pronged. One is a change to the infrastructure that is a more inclusive mobility infrastructure. That's a road network that caters to pedestrians being the most vulnerable, all the way up to the most lethal being heavy motor vehicle drivers or their vehicles. The second is ensuring that the vehicles that actually travel on these roads are fit for purpose. That's roadworthiness as well as mechanical soundness. There's evidence that suggests that many vehicle accidents are actually caused by failure that is mechanical. And then the last component, which is quite important as well, is the influence of driver and pedestrian behavior.
So let's pick one. Let's talk about there's one of the proposals, as far as I understand it, that addresses the state of the vehicle. Tell me about these mandatory annual vehicle inspections that you are calling for.
So a gap that we've highlighted is that in many instances, vehicles only undergo some form of fit-for-purpose check when they're being exchanged, i.e. someone purchasing a vehicle from someone else. And because of that, we've realized that some vehicles can go as far as 15 years without undergoing some form of roadworthiness check. To address this, because motorists pay for a renewal of their vehicle license every year, we're saying complement that vehicle license renewal with an actual inspection to ensure that the vehicle is fit for use on the road.
Sure. And that seems to me like it's common sense. Why do you believe it's not being taken up? I don't believe that this is the first time a call like this is being made.
Not too sure why it hasn't, but the AA has made a concerted effort this year to collaborate with government and fashion a solution where we'll have that implemented this year.
Yeah. And then what are some of the proposals you are putting forward around the issue of road infrastructure? How much of a factor is road infrastructure, poor road infrastructure, for example, in some of the crashes that sometimes are fatal?
So the bigger contributor from a road infrastructure perspective is really the design of the road. You've got passages and corridors in KZN, for instance, that allow for high-speed movement of motor vehicles and trucks alike. A good design would have some form of barricade separating your trucks and your motor vehicles.
Mr. Ramachwedi, do I still have you?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, I thought you were still explaining a bit more about, the investment that is required in road infrastructure that would be impactful.
Correct. So the investment that's required is one that sees a redesign of the way we build roads. South Africa, unfortunately, has a lot of legacy roads that were built purely for vehicles that don't take into account the fact that we have a very diverse mobility community that's pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, motor vehicles, as well as heavy motor vehicles. So in the design and construction going forward, roads ought to be built in such a way that they cater to the vast demographic of road users.
Yeah. How urgent is the moment in terms of responding to this? I mean, the recent festive season was one of the really, in terms of the number of fatalities that came through, it was quite high, and that became quite clear very early on in the festive season. And we're only talking about festive season, but actually fatalities on our roads occur throughout the year, and they have an impact on our economy as well as some of the UN, development goals that we are signed up for.
It is a burning platform, and I'm glad that you mentioned that the tally is not just a festive season tally. To paint a slightly grimmer picture, the reality of road fatalities in South Africa for the year 2024 is north of 11,000 fatalities recorded. That's a lot more than just what's recorded over the festive period. This is an urgent matter, and it is being dealt with quite rigorously by the AA. As I said, the AA, for the first time in many years, is now collaborating with the government to develop a solution that can be implemented and managed not only by the state, but also to private sector.
Is it your sense that that urgency resonates with the other partners, including government and other players, civil society and the likes?
It is. We've till today, over the festive period, I think we've engaged over 4 times in fashioning a solution.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That is Bobby Ramachwede, who is the CEO of the Automobile Association.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
N1 South busier than you might be expecting this morning on the run through Midrand. You'll pick up delays about Olifantsfontein and won't really get out of it until you got to Marlborough Drive on the Mike 1. The breakdown on the N3 North at Modderfontein Road, that has been cleared, and that traffic coming through from Germiston Bedford View has eased up pretty significantly. Major delays coming in from King Shaka International to Durban this morning. There's a broken down vehicle on the N2 South before Gateway. That's pushed a delay back through Sabaya, and if you're thinking about avoiding that, you're going to run into just as much trouble on the M4 going south of Route First Highway. Crash there between Sabaya and Mshlanga, causing a pretty heavy delay as well. Both of those routes under pressure. The run up the N2 from the south coast through Umgeta Road on your way to the airport running north looks okay this morning. Just watch for some mudslides and surface water around Durban. Durban technically in 24 hours overnight, or yesterday if you like, had more rain in that 24-hour period than their January average, just to put it into perspective. So a lot of flooding, surface water, and some mudslides, particularly around Scopra, Umkamas area, and also along the foreshore in the Bluff area. That foreshore drive is currently closed. Cape Town, N1 inbound, still pretty heavy this morning from N1 City into the elevated freeway section for the foreshore. Behind that, the N2 backs up from Searle Street on Nelson Mandela Boulevard, and the M5 is quite slow, moving up from Rondebosch through towards the Maitland area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1997, a loaf of bread cost only 2 rand. Now, it's about 24 rand. Prices just keep going up. But you can count on Outsurance's commitment to saving you big bucks on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Cyril saves 358 Rand a month on his 2023 GWM P-Series 4x4.
It was mind-blowing. It was quick and easy. That saving is actually saving my paycheck. Leave all the insurances and come to Outsurance because they will save.
Another satisfied Outsurance customer. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. And when it comes to service, Outsurance is on the ball. Valid claims are settled and paid out quickly with no hassle. SMS out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Life is too short for long-term grudges, but when it's the Soweto Derby, Ayamadoda, Ipeli, Black and White confronts Gold and Black. The Buccaneers believe Yonkindawo, Ibhakabhaka, liyaphumelela, while Amakhosi still emphasize Ikhosi alipheli umoya. Experience Mzansi's biggest football rivalry, Orlando Pirates versus Kaizer Chiefs, on Saturday, 1 February at 2 p.m. live on SABC1 and at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's let 100 flowers bloom and 100 schools of thought contend. Let's engage. Let me take one or two of your voice notes before I go to the calls now.
Good morning to us. Again, the governor of today, they are going to be reactive instead of proactive about the situation of Kutung. That's the point.
Yeah, that's a short and sharp. I can't disagree with you there. I mean, from what one of the callers was saying, from as early as the 1980s to now, surely by now, someone should have come up with a lasting solution that is clear, that's discernible, where I don't need to probe and ask Uguti, do you have land? Do you have the money dedicated to this? Geological studies. By now, it should be a plain system that says, over the decades of dealing with this issue, these are the solutions. This is how we deal with it. When you have this issue, we put you in this piece of land. You're absolutely spot on. I can't add anything to that.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Can we perhaps be explained as to why we would pay 60 to 72 months for a car, but pay 10 to 20 years for a house, of which are the same value, only find out that, let's say, the house is R1 million and the car is also R1 million, but the durations aren't the same. What is happening? What's the mathematics there?
Yeah, I'm no expert, but I would imagine that involves, the repayments per month. How much are those repayments versus what you would pay for, mortgage bond, for example? Because I think the repayments for mortgage bond do tend to be a bit higher. Do they? No? What? Yeah, maybe I'm getting it wrong. Let me leave it there. But I mean, it has to do with all of those practices that say over what period of time are you choosing to pay off that mortgage bond. Remember, the banks always say you don't have to pay the minimum that we set for you. You can always pay a bit more. Let me take one more voice note and then go to your calls.
Good morning, Thulas, the team, and fellow South African FM listeners. Thulas, after reconfiguring the ANC, Mbalula and his team must reconfigure service delivery in South Africa.
There's an idea I can get behind. Reconfigure service delivery in South Africa. I'm fully behind that. Let me take a few of your calls then this morning. Let me speak to Taki in Limpopo. Good morning, Taki. You want to talk about sinkholes and acid mine drainage?
Oh, really? Good morning. Thank you so very much. I don't want to think there is a correlation between sinkholes and acid mine drainage. To some extent, rather let me start by saying I have noticed that no one came in to speak about this subject. And if anyone came in, I might have not been switching on. But what I need to indicate is that there are complexities over this very subject, and what it entails really. It is about the activities that brought by as a result of mining around Gauteng.
Yes,
you see, to an extent that the water that the mining had been using, which had been at the bottom of those mines for too long, had accumulated ionic substances or metal substances, if you like, because isn't it in Gauteng you are digging gold and stuff like that. So what happened is that substance has now polluted some of the riverine, if you like, including the Vaal River and stuff like that. So what becomes very critical really here is to invite some experts, and I think this would be a very interesting subject.
Absolutely.
Invite some experts to really unpack what are the consequences of the presence of the metal substance that have been tested to find that they are polluting the river downstream.
Gotcha. Taki, thank you for that. That is Taki. That's a good suggestion. But also over and above that, the scientific underpinnings of the problems such as acid mine drainage, but also the socio-economic impacts of not planning to respond to these issues, acid mine drainage, the sinkholes and the likes. So Lomzi, You want to talk to me about the Uber, not Uber, the e-hailing app, the Afrikaans-based e-hailing app. Good morning to you.
Yes, I do. Morning. What I wanted to say is that we should spare the connotation that Afrikaans is an apartheid language. There are many groups in South Africa that tend to speak Afrikaans. We have Afrikaners, you have coloureds, even black people do speak Afrikaans. Even here in Guguletu, we speak much of Afrikaans. You see, I think the government, in trying to promote black languages, it should not do the mistake of trying to undermine other languages, because Afrikaans, as it stands.
Oh, Solomze, I don't know what happened there. But that point you make is so crucial there, Solomze. I don't know what happened. We lost you there. But the point you make about it is possible to affirm and elevate other languages without pulling down any other language is a critical, very important point to say we can encourage the use of other languages, indigenous South African languages, without pulling down any other language. Mkhoseli in Cape Town, good morning. You want to talk to me about Stokvels this morning?
Yes, good morning to us, Israel. I just want to find out from your listeners whether it's usual for someone, when they want to terminate from a stokvel, that they have to wait for about 60 days, in which case the 60 days is not reflected on the Constitution. So I joined the stokvel last year in November, and then in January, my financial situation was not good, so I wanted to terminate, and then I was told that I have to wait for 60 days, and then I will still be penalized 20% of whatever contribution. In which case, I had contributed a lump sum of a year, that is about 3,000 rand. And then I wanted to pull out, and then they said they're going to penalize 20%, and then I have to wait 60 days before my money reflects on my bank account. Now, this is different because I had been with some other investment companies like Sanlam, like Satrix, where you get your money in 5 days. You know.
Yeah.
So I just want to find out whether this is usual or maybe somebody has experienced it.
Yeah.
And this is quite a reputable company in KZN that I'm talking about.
That runs a stokvel.
That runs a stokvel, yes.
Sure.
There are a couple of other businesses, entrepreneurial businesses, whatever. But yeah, I just need the money.
Yeah.
I am desperate. It's January. And yeah, I just have to wait 60 days.
Mkhoseli, let's leave it there. Hopefully someone has experience in that field in terms of how constitutions of stokvels work and the usual clauses and how you navigate those clauses and how you can get out of that situation when you need to. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening and thank you for your engagement this morning. The Talking Point with Kethi Motlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news. And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident, and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187.
In our top stories, foreign prisoners worsening overcrowding problems in correctional facilities, and analysts weigh in on Ntshabeni corruption allegations. Good morning. The Correctional Services Department says the majority of prisoners sentenced for involvement in illegal mining activities are foreign nationals from SADC countries. This comes amid concerns that the number of foreign prisoners in correctional services facilities has increased, putting a strain on the country's prisons. Parliament's Correctional Services Committee yesterday released figures which show that over 22,500 foreigners are currently incarcerated in correctional centres. Department spokesperson Sengabako Nxumalo says they are engaging relevant stakeholders to discuss the deportation of some foreign prisoners to their countries of origin.
We do work with other departments where we continuously indicate to them that the situation is not looking good, and some of these people say the sooner they take them back to their countries of origin, the better, because the strain that they impose the system is quite a lot because it is stretching our resources as correctional services, because when they are with us, we then have to make it a point that nutritional services are available. When they are sick, healthcare must be provided. There's quite a lot. So it's not just keeping a human being there. Then it means now more resources must be made available to them.
Minister in the Presidency, Kumbutso Ntshabeni, is yet to react to corruption allegations against her. Political analyst Sandile Swana has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to apply his mind when appointing ministers. This as pressure mounts on the president to take action against Ntshabeni. She's accused of corruption. This after she allegedly benefited from a 2.5 million rand tender while she was the manager in the Bapalaburwa local municipality. Swana says Ramaphosa should not appoint ministers who are implicated in corruption.
Ramaphosa should refrain from appointing